2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
To infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Live from the Play Show, yet not overly ostentatious studios of the Infinity Sports Network here in beautiful New York City, sitting on top of the 10th floor of 345 Hudson Street. Welcome on in to what is a Football Friday edition of the Zach Gelb Show across all of our local Infinity Sports Network affiliates, Sirius XM, Channel 158, the free Odyssey app, and of course streaming live on YouTube. 855-212-4227 is the number to jump on in. That's 855-212-4227. You could always get at me on Instagram, where I'm straight flexing, or via the good old cesspool of Twitter, X, at Zach Gelb. That is ZACHGELB. I got Stuart Kovacs. I got Moist Mike. And we are rocking and rolling, jamming out with you all the way up until 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time. Coming up at 4:20 p.m. Eastern time, 1:20 p.m. Pacific time today, Andrew Perloff's picks. Yeah, that's right. Andrew Perloff's going to join us, NFL picks. It was a great week on the show last week. I was 3-0. Trista Crick was 3-0. So in all likelihood, Perloff and I will probably combine to be 0-6 this week. That's just usually how the odds do end up playing on out. I'm not in a good mood today to start the show, by the way. We will get to the Cowboys in just a bit, as the Cowboys are mid. But the reason why I'm not in a good mood is Brandon Aubrey, you stink. I know you're a good kicker. I know right now you're perceived to be, with Tucker kind of falling off a little bit, you're perceived to be the best kicker in the NFL. First off, I did not think that the Dallas Cowboys should have kicked the field goal in that spot where the time was and the game being a 5-point game. I thought if you missed the kick, you give the Giants good field position. So he should have, Mike McCarthy, taken a delay a game. You run an extra second off the clock, and then you just punt the ball and you pin it inside the 5 or 10 yard line, and the Giants have to go 90 yards in like 30 seconds or whatever it was. But when he lines up to kick, it was everything that you wanted in an Al Michaels Amazon Prime broadcast. Because of the fact you get, this kick's very important to some, and it was very important to me. Because Vegas had the number Cowboys -5.5. And it was a 5-point game. And lo and behold, the kick is up, and it is no good. Wide. So, thanks, but no thanks, Dallas. If I was going to lose that bet, I'll be the first one to say it. If I was going to lose that bet, which I ended up doing so, I wanted the Giants then to win. But I lost the bet, and the Cowboys won the game, but they didn't cover the spread. So more on the Cowboys in just a bit. But let's start the show off with the biggest game of the college football season so far. And I know it is an early college football season. We're only still in September. But we have Georgia against Alabama. And, of course, that game will be played in Tuscaloosa. And this is a huge moment for not only Kalen DeBoer, but also Kirby Smart. And I vacillated on this game. Earlier in the week, love Bama. Now as we sit here on a Friday, kind of like Georgia in this contest. But I've also changed my opinion on this. I thought heading into the week, there was more pressure on Alabama and Kalen DeBoer. Because this is a moment for Kalen DeBoer to tell people, hey, I'm a great coach. Even though you don't need this moment to say I'm a great coach with what he's done, if you follow his career at Sioux Falls, if you followed his career at Fresno State, and he was also in the national championship game last year at Washington. But now you're in the SEC. It's different territory. Now you're at the creme de la creme job, and you're replacing the greatest college football coach of all time in Nick Saban. So I thought there was more pressure on Kalen DeBoer to tell everyone, hey, not only is Alabama still here, we still run this bleep. But as the week has gone on, I have done a 180 on that, where I actually do believe there is more pressure on Kirby Smart, and I'll get to those reasons in just a bit. But I have to replay something that happened on this show yesterday, where at first I was like, this kind of sounds absurd. And maybe the more and more I think about it, I wouldn't go to the measures that this guy did. But there's recent history that shows us I may be caught up in a moment, and I may be disrespectful to a long dynastic run of Alabama. And if you listen to this show, I'm not someone that hates Alabama. I love Nick Saban. I love the Alabama Crimson Tide. And also, I am a huge fan of Kalen DeBoer. And this goes back to when most of you didn't even know who Kalen DeBoer was, when he would come on this show, and he joined us when he was the coach of Fresno State, for crying out loud. And anytime, or almost any time, we've asked him to come on since then, at Fresno, Washington, even at Alabama, he has come on. Like 9.9 times out of 10. I was actually just talking to him off the air yesterday. So I'm not going to hide the fact that it's not like I'm going to be sitting on my couch freaking out if Alabama loses the game, but I would prefer Alabama to beat Georgia. And I don't dislike Georgia. You know, the Kirby Smart story has been ridiculous. What Stetson Bennett did there, winning 2 national championships, is awesome. Brock Bowers was the best tight end in the country. Now he's been a stud for Stu's Raiders in his early NFL career. So this has been a fun Georgia story because it means that it's not just Alabama every year. But let's listen back up to Damian Harris, who was on with us yesterday, the 2-time national championship winning running back at Alabama. And he said, Georgia, even though you won 2 of the last 3 national championships, well, you're still the little brother to Alabama.
They're still the little brother to Alabama. Don't get me wrong. Like they're still the little brother, and Kirby knows that. So it's personal. This is going to be personal for both teams.
I think a lot of people believe that Georgia's moved past Alabama. You still said Georgia's little brother. Explain that a little bit.
Because what did you just say? 2 out of the past 3 years. I mean, granted, this is a business of what have you done for me now? So I definitely understand that. Production-based business, what is your most recent success? I get that. Now, of course, hats off to Kirby. Much respect. They have won the national championship 2 of the last 3 years. They have built a very, very successful, dominant program. But they are not Alabama. They are not Alabama. It's plain and simple. They just are not Alabama. They do not have the pedigree that we have. They do not have the consistent level of success. So let's look at this from a totality perspective.
Gotcha.
Alabama's consistently 9-10 wins, 6 national championships, 12 years, 2 national championships in 3 years. I mean, Georgia's making some progress, but again, they're not Alabama.
Okay, I have many thoughts on that. And I have changed my opinion a bit from when I heard it yesterday then to today. But Stu, let me ask you this. Because in the moment when I first heard that comment yesterday by Damian Harris, I'm like, it does kind of feel, though, even though Bama beat Georgia last year in the SEC championship, with how the last 3 years have gone down, that Georgia is perceived to be right now the better program than Alabama. So calling Georgia the little brother, I thought was a little bit disrespectful at first by Damian Harris. And I'm not going to say I was surprised or startled that he said it. The guy went to Alabama. And, right, look at all the championships Alabama has done. But I'm curious, Stu, your thoughts when you initially heard that yesterday when Damian Harris said it so emphatically on this show. Hey, Georgia, nice little run. We're still Alabama, and you're still our little brother.
Yeah, the more I think about it, I think he's right.
Same.
Because, again, you could do something for a couple years. There's been a lot of programs the past 20 years that have had nice, quick runs. Alabama had a sustained run for like 15 years under
Still
Saban.
going, you could say.
And it's still going. It's
new territory.
Yeah. So I just think if Georgia wants to be on that level, I know they won 2 straight championships. They've been a great program for a while, but they have to do a lot more to be considered the preeminent college football program, and that's what Alabama is.
And here's the other thing, too. You bring up a great point, and this is where I was going as well. We've seen other programs, right, be the flavor of the month, or in this case, more than a few months here. Look at Clemson. We said the same thing, right? Clemson had success up against Alabama, right? Clemson won 2 national championships. Up Dabo Swinney and Clemson, they have usurped Nick Saban and Alabama. How do we talk about Clemson now? Oh, their apex is just winning the ACC? They're not viewed as a national championship contender? And even though, right, the Clemson student, the Clemson alum, the former Clemson player, and I had this conversation with Isaiah Simmons a few years ago, and I said, your program is good, not great. And he goes, how can you say that? And I go, because the standard at Clemson, what Dabo built, was to win championships. You guys haven't been a championship contender in a while, and don't just give me this bull junk about just winning the ACC. There's a difference in winning your conference championship and then winning a national championship. And Clemson has been far removed from really being in the national championship contending conversation. Now, I do think Georgia is set up better long-term than Clemson is to continue this run. But until we sit here and see them win another championship or maybe 2 more, I'm not going to automatically say, hey, Georgia has overtaken Alabama in this world. Because look at this. 2 things. One, if that was the case, that Georgia's now the top dog, you don't lose last year when you're going for a three-peat to an Alabama team that earlier in the season looked like they had no business being in the SEC championship game. And they lost that last year. And this is why I've actually done a 180 throughout the week in thinking that there's more pressure on Kirby Smart than Kalen DeBoer, because Alabama could play a game on Saturday, and I know there are fans that may not want to hear this, where they lose the game, but let's say they lose by a field goal, 34-31, And you know what some people will be saying? Maybe not Roll Tide Willie, but you know what like I would be saying? Hey, that's a heck of a showing. First time Alabama, Georgia. You're going up against a team that is now perceived to be the standard. And Kalen DeBoer, a few games into his career at Alabama, look, he only lost by a field goal in a game that he could easily win. Like if there's a moral victory, and I know neither of these fan bases want to hear it, but if there's a moral victory to be had on Saturday night, there's a chance Alabama could lose the game but have a moral victory. If Georgia loses the game by a field goal, you know what the take is? Man, Kirby Smart, you had things going at Georgia. You could still get revenge later in the year, but you just lost to Nick Saban in his last year when he didn't have a great team. And then Kalen DeBoer rolls in, and it's a few games into his career at Alabama and in the SEC, and he doesn't even have things humming yet, and he beats your team, which is the team that a lot of people before the year started were picking to win the national championship. That's why there's more pressure on Georgia. Because Georgia and Alabama right now, I don't even think it's big brother, little brother, because I do think that's disrespectful to what Georgia has done. This is like the stage where a mom has two sons, and both sons are like unbelievable students. They're unbelievable athletes. They're both going to Ivy League schools, and then one of the children will ask, hey, Mom, who do you like more? Do you like, let me think of two random names. Johnny or Lucas? Mom, which one is the favorite child? And that's where we're at right now. Alabama and Georgia, yes, one is older and one is younger. I get that. But they have both accomplished so much. And now you have the dreaded question that every parent tries to avoid, and that, who is your favorite child? And this matchup on Saturday night is going to tell us who's the favorite child. Both have great resumes, but we'll see who's going to really take that baton and run with it this weekend. And I really do believe there is more to lose in this one for Georgia than there is for Alabama. And just look inside the matchup. And Greg McElroy said this earlier in the week with us. Like, Carson Beck is perceived to be the top quarterback in this draft. His team just struggled 2 weeks ago against Kentucky. Jalen Milroe, people weren't fully bought in on him before this year started. I was. I said it probably 5,000 times this summer that Jalen Milroe was going to benefit the most by getting coached by Kalen DeBoer rather than Nick Saban. Now everyone says it. I just pay attention. Some people don't pay attention. So there is a lot more to gain here for Alabama in this one, because it's weird. We're at a spot where I'm not saying Alabama is disrespected, but they're not viewed as that immovable force as they once were because Saban's no longer there. But I don't think they're that far off from getting back to that. For Georgia, you're now the team with the shield, and you got to fight off Alabama. And if you lose, that's now back-to-back times where if you lost to Alabama, once with Saban, once with the new guy DeBoer, and there's a lot more on the line in this one for the Georgia players and also for Kirby Smart. And I can tell you this too. Longevity of the Georgia program. I know we saw Urban Meyer at Florida, and there were a lot of off-the-field problems, but now there's been a lot of off-the-field problems at Georgia. And that has been well documented too. And really with Saban, when his players were there weren't that many times that we were spent talking about. I'm sure there's issues that happen, but there weren't an entire offseason where we basically spent talking about off-the-field issues. Because I'm not going to say that could derail a program, but it could prevent having a player or two that makes it easier for you to win another national championship. So who's there more pressure on this weekend? Is it Georgia or Alabama? I do think it's for more pressures on Kirby Smart and the Georgia Bulldogs. It is Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. We'll take a time out. When we come on back, the kids these days, they say, so-and-so is just mid. Well, the Cowboys, they're just mid. I'll tell you why when we return. Football is back, and what better way to celebrate than winning some cash with Sleeper Picks? Sleeper Picks is a fantasy game, but you can win real money. Just pick more or less on at least 2 player stats, and if your picks are right, you win. You can pick up to 8 players to win up to 100 times your money. And Sleeper has a couple of huge offers to kickstart the football season. For new users, Sleeper will match your first deposit with up to $100 credit to your account. If you've already played, Sleeper's got discounted player projections for you every week of the season. So download the Sleeper app now and use my promo code SCORE, that's SCORE, and your first deposit will be doubled with the credit up to $100. What are you waiting for? Download Sleeper today and use code SCORE for a credit up to $100 match on your first deposit. That's code SCORE. Must be 18 years in most states and in state where it is legal. Promo code and other restrictions apply. Visit sleeper.com. Please wager responsibly. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-426-2537 for help. Paid for by Blitz Studios.
You're in a 4-minute break. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Yeah, that's the song.
You're listening to the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
All right, it is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. The Cowboys win last night, if you want to even say that. That was not a great performance. I don't walk away inspired about this Cowboys team. They are 2-2, though, but that's kind of what the Cowboys are. They just are a mid-team where I don't think they're going to be bad, but I don't think they're going to be good. I think they're going to be flirting right around 8-9 or 9-8. And I said this for the entirety of the offseason. I thought there was too much drama with this team. I didn't think this team got better. And I don't think this team is going to make the playoffs this season. Now, we'll get more into the game from last night in just a bit. But from that game, there is news in the aftermath of it. And this kind of stinks. It always stinks when a player gets hurt. But it really stinks right before you get a big, sexy matchup. And coming up on Sunday Night Football next week, it's the Steelers and it's the Cowboys. And it's a storyline that is really created from this show, quite frankly. Where, sure, obviously TJ Watt and Micah Parsons get all the credit. But we did an interview with Micah Parsons at the Super Bowl that went viral. Like millions and millions and millions of views on social media. And it was Micah Parsons basically crapping on TJ Watt, which was ridiculous. And I was like speechless during the interview because I couldn't believe what was happening. And he said that TJ Watt is not a top 5 pure pass rusher in the NFL. Like, it's one thing if you're Micah Parsons, right? Even though I've said for a while that TJ Watt's the best defensive player in football. But it's one thing if you're Micah Parsons that you have a seat at the table if you say, okay, I'm better than TJ Watt. Like, I could at least respect that. If you're in the conversation, it's belief in yourself. But then to just be so blatantly disrespectful and say that he's not a top 5 pass rusher in the NFL, and he never named the 5th guy. He only named 4, and then he stopped, and then he went on a rant. That is something that I thought was very disrespectful, and I even said in the moment to Micah Parsons, I've done this now long enough. Micah, I know how this is going to be perceived, where this is going to be perceived as you hate TJ Watt. Is that true? And he denied that. So I had this vision, Stu, of Sunday Night Football. Bum, bum, bada, bum, bum, bada, 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 bum. And on Sunday Night Football, I had this vision, as we've seen on Amazon Prime, we've seen on Sunday night as well for Sunday Night Football on either the Thursday nights or Sunday night games, that they tend to use a lot of radio clips. And I really thought if there was a chance for us to be featured in one of those. Like last night, it was RJ Choppy from The Fan in Dallas. He was the radio host that they featured. I've seen Greg Giannotti when there's been a New York team. I know the Giants won last night, but I think it was more so with the Jets. He's been featured. I really thought there's a chance, myself at the Super Bowl, sitting next to Micah Parsons, when Micah Parsons says, yeah, TJ Watt's not a top 5 pure pass rusher in the league, and then you get Mike Tirico and the Chris Collinsworth. They don't do the slide anymore, but you get the point. I still wish they do the slide, and that was in my vision. And that's how I thought next Sunday night was going to open up. But Ian Rappaport comes out today. You saw Micah Parsons get hurt in the game last night, and it was towards the end of the game. So quite frankly, I don't know if he needed the cart or if they were just like, hey, let's quickly just get you back to the locker room, especially because of who it is. But he took his shoe off, and he was getting carted off into the locker room, so it was an ominous feeling. And it's not the end of the world, but the news that we have on Micah Parsons is that All-Pro Micah Parsons, according to Ian Rappaport, did in fact suffer a high ankle sprain in last night's win over the Giants. His status is to be determined. So, 2 things off that. He could still play in the game. I saw him leaving the stadium last night. It kind of looked like one of his ankles were just like chopped off, or one of his feet were chopped off, because he was clearly favoring one side, and it was painful to walk. And you could also, people aren't going to love this, but it happens. You get a good little shot before the game, and then you end up playing. So I don't know if he's going to be able to go in this one. I would probably say that it's unlikely, but there has to be some personal pride here, Stu, on Micah Parsons, where he's going to try his best to get on the field. Because even though Micah Parsons isn't pass rushing up against TJ Watt, that matchup, Steelers and Cowboys, is billed as TJ Watt up against Micah Parsons. and that battle and how irate Micah was on our show talking about TJ Watt, it seems like there's a little extra incentive for Micah Parsons where if, let's say, next week they were playing, I don't know, let me just throw the Vikings. Like, does he feel like he has to rush back to play? But the fact they're going up against the Steelers, even though it's NFC, AFC, it seems like for Micah, this one means a little bit more something, especially when TJ Watt is off to this incredible start to the season, and Micah, outside of game one up against the Cleveland Browns, hasn't really gotten a lot of praise because he's been kind of getting shut down this year. So I wonder mentally for Micah Parsons, does whatever animosity that he clearly has displayed before for TJ Watt, does that kind of at least force him to get out on the field and see if he could go and at least give it a try before just saying, hey, I'm going to be inactive this week, when most people would be inactive after just suffering a high ankle sprain on this Thursday and then 10 days later getting out on the field on Sunday.
Yeah, like you said, it's a statement game, primetime game, two of the most, I say, famous teams, right? The Steelers and the Cowboys with biggest fan bases. Maybe not 1 and 2, but definitely 2 of the top 5.
Packers fans on line 1.
Packers are on there for sure. It's funny, Max Crosby has basically a similar injury, high ankle sprain.
He's not playing this weekend.
He's not. He tried to play last week. He did basically nothing against the Panthers, and now he is out. So I'm wondering, obviously, two different guys who knew if the injuries are the same, but they were both high ankle sprains, and he's out. So I don't know.
Cowboys fans aren't going to like that I'm going to say this.
Uh-oh.
This is Micah Parsons' Super Bowl next week. It is. Like, I don't think that's crazy to say. If you ask Mike, if Micah Parsons sits down next to us and I say, hey, Micah, do you think you could go to the Super Bowl this year and win the Super Bowl? Of course he's going to say yes. But if we injected him with truth serum and he said yes, it would be a lie. This Cowboys team, they're so vanilla. They're boring. They're not good. But they're not bad. They're just mid. That's what the drama Dallas choking Cowboys are this year. I can't even probably call them the drama Dallas choking Cowboys this year because we know they always provide drama, but that at least implies that they're really good. And then when people start to buy in, they choke in the games and they don't get the job done. But I don't think they're going to be playing in a big game this year. Like, I watched that team last night, Stu. You know, the Giants, as easily as they lost the game, they also easily could have won that game. Like, the Cowboys, for me to give them praise today, they needed to blow out the Giants. The Giants aren't a good team. Like, I know Marco was sitting here yesterday trying to tell us how good Daniel Jones is, and you could see the stats on Daniel Jones, and if you didn't watch the game, you're like, oh, 29 of 40, 281 yards, an interception. But, like, you know, those are fine numbers. But when you watch the game, he missed about 2 or 3 touchdown passes. And the Giants didn't score a touchdown in the game. So that's kind of Daniel Jones. You know what Daniel Jones is? He's a quarter short of $1. That's what Daniel Jones is. Everyone tries to tell you that Daniel Jones is this or that. And he was okay last night. But if there was a top 15 quarterback on the field last night for the New York Giants, they win that game. Like, Dallas didn't overly impress. They didn't. And Dak played a fine game. The Cowboys really have no run game. CeeDee Lamb broke off a big touchdown. But outside of that touchdown, it wasn't like CeeDee Lamb is awesome. And the Cowboys defense, it was like bend don't break last night. So I understand the Cowboys are 2-2, and you'd rather be 2-2 than 1-3. But their next 3 games are against the Steelers, the Lions, and the 49ers. If they win one game, I'd be impressed by the Cowboys. Like, the Steelers one could go either way. But the Lions should beat the Cowboys. The 49ers, even with their injury, should beat the Cowboys. And after that, the schedule doesn't get that much easier. Their next 3 after that, at Atlanta, who beat Philadelphia and just played the Chiefs really close. Then they play Philadelphia and then the Texans. So this is a Cowboys team. I don't think they're going anywhere this year. And they are not going to make the playoffs this year. And you look around, the Eagles should win this division. If Nick Sirianni doesn't win this division, He shouldn't even if they made the playoffs as a wild card team, shouldn't be allowed to coach. Should not be allowed to coach in the wild card round. The Eagles are going to win this division. The NFC North, right now, Lions are better than the Cowboys, Packers are better than the Cowboys, and I think the Vikings are better than the Cowboys. Someone's going to win the NFC South, and then the NFC West. I know the Rams are 1-2 and the Niners are 1-2. I still think those teams are better than the Cowboys. And the Seahawks, they're out to a 3-0 start, so we'll see what they do. I think the NFC, it has improved from where it's been in previous years. So a few years ago, you could go 9-8 and make the playoffs. You may have to get 10 wins in the NFC to make the postseason this year. And can I see the Cowboys getting 10 wins this year? I can't. I think the most they get is 9. Like, they are 2-2 right now. Let's say they don't have Micah Parsons next week. I'll take the Steelers in that one. Then I'll have them lose to the Lions, lose to the Niners. All right, I'll give them a win up against the Falcons. So that puts them at 3 wins through 9 weeks. I'll have them lose to Philly, lose to the Texans, I'll have them beat the Commanders, beat the Giants. So that's at 5 wins. Lose to the Bengals, beat the Carolina Panthers. So that's 6. I kind of trust Tampa Bay more than them right now. They play Tampa after that. Can they split with Philly? I guess that's possible. 7, and they play the Commanders at the end of the year. I gave them a loss to the Commanders early, so I'll give them a win against the Commanders early, so I'll give them a loss to them this time around. 7 wins right there. That to me, this is 7-10 football team. And maybe I'm wrong on 1 or 2 of those. All right, 8, maybe 9 at most. But I feel pretty damn confident looking at this team that they did not get better this offseason. Their run game is non-existent. They have a solid tight end option, but really their offense is just Dak to CeeDee Lamb. And their defense, I know we all praised the defense after beating Cleveland, but since then I haven't seen a great defensive team. Like last night, the broadcast was praising Mike Zimmer. For what? Daniel Jones, I know he missed some throws, but he looked competent in the game. And Mike Zimmer's getting praised now all of a sudden? That to me didn't match. So you only beat the Giants by 5 points, and you could have lost the game. If Wan'Dale Robinson could catch the ball, or if Daniel Jones could locate Malik Neighbors, I know left the game with a concussion on one of those plays, there's an extra touchdown for the Giants. And the Cowboys lose the game. So I don't walk away last night saying, wow, gee golly, Dallas is 2-2. They survived the blowout against the Saints, and they gave a nice effort in the fourth quarter up against the Ravens, even though they lost. Now they're 2-2, and they barely beat a bad Giant team. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. We will take a break. When we come on back, whose team needs them more this weekend? Jordan Love to return for the Packers, or Justin Herbert to lace it up for the Chargers? We'll get into that on the other side. Update time first. Here is the Act Man, Rich Ackerman.
Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash.
Well, Browns tight end David Njoku will miss his 3rd straight game with an ankle injury, and Cleveland will also be without starting tackles Jack Conklin and Jedrick Wills, while the Raiders, who host Cleveland, also have several key losses with Devontae Adams, tight end Michael Mayer, and Max Crosby all out. Speaking of out, Demario Davis missing the first game of his 13-year career due to injury due to a hamstring injury, and Russell Wilson remains questionable for the Steelers due to his calf. The Cowboys' win last night was a costly one for their defense, with DeMarcus Lawrence expected to miss several weeks with a foot injury, and Micah Parsons also leaving with a high ankle sprain. The final weekend of Major League Baseball regular season, and there are still playoff spots up for grabs and to be determined. The final 2 spots in the American League can be clinched tonight. The Tigers and Royals' magic number is 1. They're currently tied, and Detroit has had quite a season and finishing on a high note. They have the good fortune of hosting the White Sox after winning 5 in a row and 14 of 17. The Royals are in Atlanta. The Braves battling the Mets and Diamondbacks for the final wild cards in the NL. The Mets are tied with Arizona, a game in front of the Braves. The Mets are in Milwaukee. The Diamondbacks host the Padres, and right now at Wrigley, the Cubs lead the Reds 1-0 in the 6th. I'm Rich Ackerman. You're in a 5-minute break. 5 minute 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 break.
4 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
You're listening to the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
All right, it is Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. Ask the Pros time. It's time to Ask the Pros, where you, the listener, gets to ask us a question, and it's brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Simply tweet your question at INF Sportsnet or at Zach Gelb using the hashtag Ask the Pros. Be listening later in the show. We might answer your question. Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs, and get guaranteed low prices and excellent customer service from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Hey, Stu, I got to ask you before we get into who is more important for their team this weekend to play. Is it Jordan Love or is it Justin Herbert? Packers going up against the Vikings at legendary Lambeau Field. Packer 2-1. Vikings are 3-0 to start off the season. And the Los Angeles Chargers, who are 2-1 on the season, they just lost to the Steelers last week, 20-10. Herbert was banged up going into the game, banged up during the game. And they will have the Kansas City Chiefs going to Inglewood this weekend in SoFi Stadium. And we know the Chiefs haven't looked great, but they're still 3-0. But I always have this dilemma. And I feel like I ask this question anytime it happens. So after the show tonight, I have an engagement party that I need to go to for one of my good friends. And this engagement party's at 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. This has nothing to do, Stu. You're laughing. This has nothing to do with, hey, I do need to watch the Mets tonight. But this isn't like, do I look like a loser if I'm watching the Mets game on my phone at this? That's not where I'm going.
Okay, that's where I thought this was going.
I
thought you
tell.
really wanted to watch his Vatek Miami game or something.
Virginia Tech Miami,
Yeah.
I'm very interested in it tonight, by the way, as well. But no, that's not where this is
Okay.
at. I have already done that enough where I'm okay with any shame that comes with it. Like at one of my buddies' weddings a few weeks ago, I was screaming for Nebraska when they were going up against Colorado, drunk as a skunk, if I'm being honest with everybody. So I have got past that. But the engagement party, to me, I'm okay if someone wants to throw an engagement party. And this could sound a little cheap. I don't think this is me coming off as cheap. I think it's just me doing the right thing. And it's like, how many gifts do you need? What's your policy on gifts for an engagement party? Because if you're invited to the engagement party, that means you're invited to the wedding. And for me, I give the gift at the wedding. But I have some friends that give a gift at the engagement party and then give a gift for the wedding. It's like, I understand I make a nice living. I like my job. You know, people expect some things out of me. But for me to give you an engagement gift and then a wedding gift, then it's just like, okay, even though I love this couple, you know, I know both of them, great friends. For me to give you an engagement gift and then a wedding gift, I think is a little bit too much.
So I've only been to one engagement party, and I don't believe I gave a gift.
Okay.
But I gave, obviously, a gift at the wedding.
Yeah. Well,
so I don't know.
Well, let's be real. If you don't give a gift at a wedding, you
Yeah,
get invited to a
of
wedding
course.
and you don't give a gift, scummy.
That's absurd, yeah.
And I know people.
Oh, boy.
I recently found out through one of my close friends that he had a beautiful wedding. And let me just say, there was 2 twins, and one of the twins has a girlfriend. So 3 people with associated, and none of the 3 gave a gift at the wedding. So if like one person forgets a gift, scummy, but when you have 2 sets of twins and then one also has a girlfriend, how no one like did checks and balances there, who's bringing the gift, to me is a bad look. So you have to give a gift at the wedding. And, you know, I'll give a nice gift. It's like a good friend. You know, the closer the friend, the nicer the gift. But the idea of me having to give an engagement gift, maybe this may sound, I don't want this to come off sexist. I know someone will accuse me of sounding sexist. But, like, I'm just going with my family and the way that we talk about this. Like, I've brought this up with my family before. My mom has been like, you didn't give an engagement gift? My sister's like, you didn't give an engagement gift? You're not giving an engagement? Like, what's wrong with you? I'm like, no, I'm not. And my dad kind of looked at me and he was like, I think you're in the right on that one. So I don't know if like, on the female side of things, they feel like if their friends get engaged, they have to give a gift. But at least in my household, or my family, that's how it was split. my dad and I were like, no, you don't have to give an engagement gift. But then my sister and my mom were like, you two are idiots. And usually the girls are more intelligent than the guys. So I'm not a bad dude by not bringing a gift to this party.
Don't they have bridal showers too?
Yeah.
So then there are 3 gifts involved if you're
the registry. That's what I got to look at the registry. I go, why? I go, they're getting married. I don't need to go buy them a blender or something like that or a new rug. Come on. What are we doing here? So I am redoing my apartment. So my best friend who's lived with me for the last few years, he's moving out. And we've had a wall right in the apartment. So there's like a living room, big living room, and there's a wall that is now another bedroom, and then a full one big master bedroom. So I am knocking down the wall next week. My buddy's moving out this weekend. And, I'm just rearranging the apartment. I went today to Target to go get, because I wanted like a new bath mat in the tub. I wanted a mat outside the tub and then a mat in front of the toilet. And I said, you know what? While I'm there, let me get a new shower curtain as well. What do you think it cost for a shower curtain, a bath mat for inside the tub, so like when you're standing, you don't fall and slip, and then a rug outside of the tub and then right in front of the toilet?
Say $80.
I would have thought it would have been lower, right? That would have probably been my guess. $98 from Target.
Yeah.
Yeah. $98 at Target. Well, what did Samter say? No? Oh?
I don't know.
Oh. I heard
shopping in the wrong place is what he said.
I'm not shopping in the wrong place. I went to Target. What, I got a different deal at Bed Bath & Beyond?
It says $20 on Amazon.
Yeah.
He claims.
But here's the problem. I'm not anti-Amazon. I use Amazon a lot. I got a brand new air fryer from Amazon. But when it comes to the way that something's going to look in your house, I am someone, or in your apartment, I'm someone that I don't like to do the whole buy and then possibly return online. It's just an inconvenient, obnoxious, old school process. Like, that's my old school mind of thinking. So for me, I said, okay, I wanted to get a little color coordinated. Want to spice things up a little bit. I said, let me just go see how this looks. But then if I ordered off Amazon and then it got it and I didn't like it, then I got to go to the UPS store. I got to get a label. I got to do a return. It's a massive pain in the ass. So if I got screwed out of like $20 there, I'm okay with that. But don't be expecting an engagement gift and you invite me to your engagement party. Because I got a new bathroom to put together and a new apartment to basically put together. And a big fat TV screen that I just hung on the wall as well. Stuff ain't cheap, even though you sometimes get a deal here and there. All righty, for this weekend, who's more important to play? Both guys have been limited throughout the week. Jordan Love or Justin Herbert? Chargers are going up against the Chiefs, and the Green Bay Packers are going up against the Minnesota Vikings. I don't even think this one is close. Like, the Packers just won their last 2 games, and the Green Bay Packers have just won their last 2 games with Malik Willis. And Malik Willis, I don't think he's going to play this weekend. But Stu, it seemed like Jordan Love was inching closer to return last week, and I thought it would have been malpractice for him to play last week. So I expect Jordan Love to play. On Herbert, I could see him missing the game, but I kind of feel like with the Harbaugh culture, they're going to try to grind this one out, and then if they get in the game up against the Chiefs and it gets out of hand, then they'll pull Justin Herbert and put, whomever under center for the Los Angeles Chargers. But if the Chargers have to roll with their backup quarterback up against the Chiefs, they got no shot. They got absolutely no shot. If they're rolling, even if it's Easton Stick or Taylor Heineke, pick whatever you want. If you have to start either one of those quarterbacks up against the Kansas City Chiefs with the Steve Spagnuolo defense that is very good, there's no chance that the Chargers can win the game. For the Packers, it's weird. They could play Malik Willis in this one. And even though Minnesota is 3-0, I think they could win Malik Willis with Malik Willis in this one. And I think it's more likely that Malik Willis would lead the Packers to a victory against the Vikings than it is Taylor Heineke or Easton Stick leading a victory up against the Kansas City Chiefs. Like, I don't even think this one's close to. Who is it more important for his team to win this week, to play this week in order to win? It is easily Justin Herbert playing, even if he's at like 60, 70% compared to then Jordan Love having to go for the Packers up against the Vikings.
I think you said it best. They have no chance of beating the Chiefs with their backup. I just can't see it. I could see the Packers winning with Willis. I'm not saying definitely winning or more likely to win than the Vikings, but
you know what?
I can't see it.
I actually do believe Love is going to play. I think either way, though, it's a lock that Green Bay wins this week up against Minnesota. Because Minnesota is 3-0 right now, and their defense has been unbelievable with Brian Flores. Sam Darnold has been better than anyone could have imagined, even his own family members. Justin Jefferson, I know he's dealing with some injuries, but he's always a stud. You got the return. That's the one thing that scares me of Aaron Jones, little revenge game. That scares me. But I just kind of feel like, Stu, that the Vikings being 4-0, that just sets off a little alarm in my head, like, oh, that can't happen. So I say it's a lock, and it probably isn't a lock in all likelihood, because the Vikings are a heck of a team. Like, I'm in the mind of thinking right now that the Vikings should be in the playoffs this year. But I don't know. I can't say on the radio the Vikings are going to win, because I just don't believe the Vikings are going to beat the Packers this weekend at Lambeau Field. I don't know. A 4-0 Minnesota Vikings team just
Doesn't
seems
sound
funky
right.
to me. Seems
Yeah.
funky.
It almost feels like a scheduled loss. Like it can't possibly happen. I'm with you.
It's like me giving an engagement gift. It's unlikely. I'll just wait for the wedding, for crying out loud. Then I'll write the check and I'll be done with it. And also, you know what a pet peeve of mine is? How long do you give the couple until they deposit the check? How long? Once you give them the gift at the wedding?
I don't know if I've ever tracked that.
Well, I'm not saying you take the check back, but it's kind of obnoxious if they don't do so within like 2 weeks. After that, then you're just sitting and waiting to see when the money's going to go out of your account. I got a lot of problems today. Just better not to invite me to your weddings, folks. All right, coming up next, 10 college football questions. Zach Gelb Show, Infinity Sports Network.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. 2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
Alrighty, rocking and rolling. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. Andrew Perloff is going to stop by 20 minutes from now from our morning show. Maggie and Perloff will do some NFL picks with him. Last week when Trista Crick joined us, she was 3-0. I was 3-0. You should have taken our picks. Most weeks you probably shouldn't, but last week you should have because they all won, and you would have won a lot of cash. This week, with how good I was last week and how good Trista was last week, probably set up for Perloff to probably be like 1-2, and then your boy to be 0-3. But without further ado, we got 10 college football questions for this weekend. I was originally going to do 5 questions, and then I said to Stu, there's a lot of good storylines this weekend. So play me a little college football music, please. And Stu, fire away on your questions.
All right, Zach, the first one. Can Virginia Tech be the team we thought they would be against Miami tonight?
So Miami has been one of those storylines of college football where it looks like they could be undefeated in the regular season. Now, there's always that fear in the back of my mind whenever you think Miami is close to getting back, then they do fall down. But Cam Ward is that great. And quite frankly, I've been really disappointed in Virginia Tech, where they open up the season losing to Vanderbilt. You know, I'm not going to praise them for beating Old Dominion and Marshall. And then Rutgers is a solid team this year, but they did just lose to Rutgers. So up against an SEC team and then up against a Big Ten team, they lost both those games. They play tonight up against Miami. Could this game be closer than what people expect? Yes, because Virginia Tech is probably not as bad as the way they've been playing. But to be the team that I thought they could be, which was ACC champs, that means they would go on to win this game tonight. And I have a tough time seeing Virginia Tech winning this game tonight up against Miami.
All right, will Kentucky slow down Ole Miss?
I don't see it. I thought Kentucky's chance to really impress people was up against Georgia 2 weeks ago. And they had him right there. And Mark Stoops, who coached great for like 58 minutes, became a coward down the stretch when he elected to punt the football when he should have gone for it on that 4th and short scenario when he had a chance to go win the game. So I know they won last week 41-6 up against Ohio. They also lost 31-6 to South Carolina. Ole Miss right now is just a force. This is their best opponent so far. They played Furman, they played MTSU, they played Wake Forest, they played Georgia Southern, and the scores have been 76-0, 52-3, 40-6, and 42-13. So this is a step up in competition for Ole Miss, but I still expect Ole Miss and their defense, which has been a good story this year, to dominate, and then Ole Miss just to be able to score too many points that Kentucky is going to be tapping out in the fourth quarter saying, hey, throw in the flag.
Will Michigan have a letdown against Minnesota?
So last year, Michigan destroyed Minnesota. And Will Johnson, who joined us earlier in the week, he had a pick 6 up against Minnesota. I think this could be a letdown spot because it would be very Michigan-like for this year. Just when you think, okay, maybe they're better than what people thought they were, they then go drop a game to Minnesota. But this game is at the Big House. Michigan has showed against a team like a Minnesota, if they could do this up against USC, they don't really need much of a passing attack. So as long as you get Kalel Mullings and Donovan Edwards to be able to break out a big run or two in this game, and we'll see if Will Johnson ends up playing. But even if he doesn't, you got Mason Graham, you got Josiah Stewart, you got enough names on that defense too, Kenneth Grant too. I just think Michigan will be able to edge out Minnesota. So this could be a game where if you're a Michigan fan afterwards, you wipe some sweat off your forehead and you go, woof, we almost could have lost that one, but I don't think they end up losing coming up tomorrow at noon Eastern.
Staying in the Big Ten, how will Penn State win against Illinois?
This spread is at 19.5 in favor of Penn State. Earlier in the week, it was at 17.5. So it's moving up. And that kind of makes me think that Penn State is going to blow them out. But with that being said, I kind of think this game is going to be a tad closer. I do think Illinois is going to be able to keep it within 2 touchdowns. I like Brett Bielema a lot. Altmaier's a good quarterback. He outdueled Dylan Raiola, who's the best freshman quarterback in the country. And he did that last week in Lincoln. So I think Penn State wins, but Penn State isn't able to put the foot on the throat and cover that almost nearly 20-point spread. So give me Penn State to win, but I think Illinois will keep it within the 2 touchdowns.
All right, does Notre Dame take care of Louisville?
Stu, I'll ask you this. On a scale of 1 to 10, confidence in Notre Dame at home this weekend up against Jeff Brom and Louisville.
Say like a 4.
By the way, remember a conversation we had this summer with our pal Hot Take Hickey? About him trying to pretend like he hasn't rooted for Notre Dame in about like 6 or 7 years?
Yes, I do.
So I appreciate when listeners do this. Sometimes it gets a little creepy because sometimes like listeners think they have something that is like crazy, and then it's not really that crazy, but they like to play the game. So I always appreciate the eyes of everyone and the ears of everyone as well. I got a photo sent to me a few weeks ago when Hickey's doing his show because they remember us talking about how Hickey pretended like he's never rooted for Notre Dame and he's all Penn State, all Penn State. You know what Hickey was wearing a few weeks ago when he was doing his show that he streams on YouTube?
Guessing it was something Notre Dame related.
A Notre Dame sweatshirt.
Ah.
So Hickey, I guess, is back on the Notre Dame bandwagon. I like Louisville in this one. Notre Dame shouldn't be a 7-point favorite in this game. You want to tell me 3, they're at home, and then maybe you give them 2 more points, 5, okay? I think Louisville's going to win the game outright. I like what Jeff Brom has done a lot. Last year, that team basically got no credit whatsoever. And that was a football team that going into the last few weeks of the season, they were 10-1. They didn't play great down the stretch, but they lost their last 3. They're off to a good start this year. Haven't dropped a game yet. They're 3-0. They beat Georgia Tech last week. I think Louisville goes on the road and defeats Notre Dame. And then if that's the case, you thought the reaction was bad after they lost to Northern Illinois. If you parlay losing to Northern Illinois and then losing to Louisville, and I get it, hey, Louisville is a 15th ranked team in the country. As long as we are now in the Marcus Freeman era, that noise for a new head football coach in Notre Dame is just going to get louder and louder. So give me Louisville.
All right, does Aston Genty continue his Heisman campaign against 4-0 Washington State?
I hope so, and I think he will. This dude hasn't had a bad game so far this season, and even when he has a bad game, for his standards, it's still better than, 98% of the running backs in the country. Here are the numbers so far for Ashton Genty through 3 games. 56 carries, 586 yards, and 9 touchdowns. And I will say this. We already had their coach on, Spencer Danielson. I know we're on in Boise right now in KTIK. They carry us for the first 2 hours of the show. If Boise beats Washington State this week, you could guarantee this. I will have a text. I will have an email out to Boise State to get Ashton Genty on the show. Because if he gets this win and they start the year 3-1 and their one loss is to Oregon, and let's say Genty goes for like 150 plus yards in this game, he continues to make that push to be a finalist in New York. I like Boise State to win the game and Ashton Genty. Let's say 24 carries, 160 yards, and 2 touchdowns. 2 touchdowns. We'll go 2 touchdowns.
All right, will Utah have a letdown against Arizona?
Remember with the Pac-12, how whenever you would trust the team in the Pac-12, they would lose? Like a few years ago, Oregon had a chance to make the playoffs, and then they lost the game they shouldn't have lost, and then they were out. I kind of feel like this is the Big 12 this year, where the Big 12 is the new Pac-12. Whenever you fall in love with the team, and I don't even know if Cam Rising's going to play in this game. Zach Wilson's brother played the other week, and you look at a team like Utah, all Kyle Whittingham does is just win. It doesn't matter who the quarterback is. They're 4-0. They just beat Oklahoma State. So it's okay, you look at Arizona, they lost to Kansas State, and they scored the first touchdown, and they allowed 31 unanswered points. So, everything says Utah should win this game, but I like the quarterback and wide receiver connection for Arizona. I think Arizona pulls off the upset this week. Give me a late night, 10:15 p.m. Eastern time kick. Arizona pulling off the upset up against the Utah Utes, and we still have no clue who's the preeminent team in the Big 12.
All right, does Oklahoma State running back Ollie Gordon show up against Kansas State?
I don't know how anyone could expect so, which is crazy. Let me give you the numbers last year on Ollie Gordon. Ollie Gordon last year had 1,732 rushing yards and 21 rushing touchdowns. He also had 39 receptions for 330 yards receiving and a receiving touchdown. So this dude had almost 1,800 yards of offense and 22 rushing touchdowns. And to start this season, what the heck is going on with Ollie Gordon? 4 games, 73 carries, 258 yards, and 4 touchdowns. And 3 out of those 4 touchdowns came in week 1. After week 1, where he had 28 carries for 126 yards and 3 rushing touchdowns, here are his numbers since. Arkansas, 17 for 49 and a touchdown. Tulsa, 17 for 41, no touchdown. Utah, in a loss, 11 for 42, no touchdown. I think Chris Kleiman finds a way to slow down Ollie Gordon again. I don't know if there's an injury or something, but it just seems funky how that season has gone so far with Ollie Gordon. I know there was some injury rumors going back into the summer. Something just doesn't seem right with him.
Does Colorado pull off the upset against UCF?
No. You know why? It's funny. When Colorado lost to Nebraska, Deion Sanders did something that I didn't like. And it didn't seem like something Coach Prime would ever do as a player. He tried to turn a loss into a positive, where he talked about how great they were in the second half when they lost the game 28-10. And that game was over at halftime. And then they beat Colorado State, and they acted like it was their Super Bowl. It's funny. Like, remember Shador said before the start of the season, when we play everyone, it's their Super Bowl. Well, after beating Colorado State, who you're expected to beat and you beat last year, you acted like it was your Super Bowl. And then they beat Baylor, who is not a good team this year, and Dave Aranda's ass is on the hot seat. Nice guy, but, you lose that way. It's just terrible. And you needed a Hail Mary just to get the game to overtime. I just don't think Colorado's all that good. And say what you want about Gus Malzahn, I think Auburn fans regret getting rid of Gus Malzahn. They hired the coach from Boise State. He was gone quickly. Hugh Freeze, he lost last week, and he's like, if we play that team, 10 times, we beat them 9. Well, coach, how about the time you did play them? You lost. So don't tell me that you're going to go beat a team 9 straight times. Gus Malzahn's just a professional coach, and I think UCF has the better team. Shador and Travis are just phenomenal. They're 2 of the best players in the country. But UCF has a better team. And I think UCF is going to get the win, and Colorado doesn't pull off the upset.
All right, last but not least, who will be the better quarterback, Jalen Milroe or Carson Beck?
Jalen Milroe. And I think that's going to surprise people because Carson Beck is perceived to be the first quarterback off the draft this year. And, hey, I think this game is a flip of the coin. I know that doesn't make for the best radio in the world. But I don't want to underestimate the importance of Kalen DeBoer coaching Jalen Milroe. How do we talk about, and I know DeBoer was with Penix for a year at Indiana, but how did anyone talk about Michael Penix Jr. before he got to Washington? Inconsistent, always hurt, not a good quarterback. He got teamed up with Kalen DeBoer at Washington, and he ended up being the 8th overall pick in the draft. Jalen Milroe now gets Kalen DeBoer after getting benched last year, then getting his job back, and Alabama was in overtime of the college football playoff semifinal in the Rose Bowl up against Michigan. I think Jalen Milroe is going to have a monster season. And the bar is set all the way up here for Carson Beck. The bar for Jalen Milroe entering this year was like kind of here. It wasn't all the way up here. It was just here. And it was midway. I think Jalen Milroe is going to continue to rise. And Kalen DeBoer is going to get the most out of him. So I think Jalen Milroe will be the better quarterback compared to Carson Beck. And also, you see right now in Georgia, their offense has a little bit of identity crisis. They're missing Brock Bowers. Alabama, Ryan Williams, kid's 17. Look at the start he's off to his college career. He's getting compared to Amari Cooper. Nick Saban's having positive things to say about his maturity and everything. That's a kid with Jalen Milroe. That's going to be a phenomenal 1-2 punch this year. All righty, great job. 10 questions right there. It is Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network, talking all things college football. When we come on back, Andrew Perloff is going to join us, and we will do NFL picks as he is our guest picker this week. Come on back. Zach Gelb Show, Infinity Sports Network. Football is back, and what better way to celebrate than winning some cash with Sleeper Picks? Sleeper Picks is a fantasy game, but you can win real money. Just pick more or less on at least 2 player stats. If your picks are right, you win. You can pick up to 8 players to win up to 100 times your money. And Sleeper has a couple huge offers to kickstart the football season. For new users, Sleeper will match your first deposit with up to $100 credit to your account. If you've already played, Sleeper's got discounted player projections for you every week of the season. So download the Sleeper app now and use my promo code SCORE, that's SCORE, and your first deposit will be doubled with the credit up to $100. What are you waiting for? Download Sleeper today and use code SCORE for a credit up to $100 match on your first deposit. That's code SCORE. Must be 18 years in most states and in state where it is legal. Promo code and other restrictions apply. Visit sleeper.com. Please wager responsibly. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-426-2537 for help. Paid for by Blitz Studios. Andrew Perloff next on the Zach Gelb Show.
You're in a 4-minute break. 3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
This is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
All righty, we'll do some NFL picks right now with Andrew Perloff. Andrew Perloff joins us, of course, from the Maggie and Perloff extravaganza right here on the Infinity Sports Network on many of these same Infinity Sports Network affiliates from 6 to 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Perloff, how you been, my friend?
I've been great. Is that what you call us behind our back, the extravaganza show?
No, I usually say the Zach Gelb Show extravaganza, the Maggie and Perloff extravaganza. If I'm talking crap about you guys, you'll know it. Like, you'll hear it. It will get back to you eventually. I'm not someone that, I'll just say something or take a shot at someone, and then when I see you, be like, oh, I love you. If I tell you I don't like something you guys do, I wouldn't be afraid to call you up. I got to figure out who your new board op's going to be, because usually I'd have an open line right to your show when Pete the Body Bilotti was pressing the buttons.
Well, Zach, you know how it is. We have a lot of people to talk trash about before we get to your name. Yeah. And that's actually not as great. I mean, there's a whole list of people, that we run down.
That Bill Ryder.
Oh, I know. Wow. We had a long discussion, and I don't want you to pull the audio, about behind the scenes guys. We broke down every producer's capability in the whole network. Part-timers, full-timers. We just went for it. And it was mostly positive.
Now, you are a locker room guy,
Yeah.
but did you know everyone behind the scenes? Because when you hear that early in the morning, there's some guys at night that you've never seen in your life.
No, here's who drove it. Andrew Bogusch has been here since the beginning of the network. So when Pete Bellotti left our show to go overnights with Amy Lawrence, Bogusch was the longest tenured network employee. So he knows where all the bodies are buried.
Yeah.
He knows he's built grudges that last longer than than you've been in the career. But no, we generally think that everybody's pretty good. I'm not going to lie to you. There's a lot of talent in the building. I'm not even talking about on the mic. Behind the scenes, there's some great guys.
So just wondering, because I was not privy of this conversation, when the name Stu Kovacs came up, what was said?
Well, you know how Maggie feels about Stu.
She hates him, right?
The opposite. Maggie says, Stu is my emergency contact, is what she says. She has full faith in Stuart Kovacs.
All right. When the name Michael Samter came up, was that a popular name on that show?
Thumbs up from Andrew Perloff. Thumbs up from Maggie Gray. Thumbs down from everyone else in the room.
All right. I have to ask you a serious question. It's a great line. Andrew Perloff with us. I'm going to an engagement party tonight.
Oh, no.
So
okay.
Exactly. My thought as well. It's one of my good friends, and I'm also then obviously invited to the wedding. I don't think I need to bring an engagement gift because I'm going to give a gift at the wedding. Is that a cheap, scummy move by me if I don't bring an engagement gift?
Oh, first of all, you're asking the wrong person. You're looking to me for etiquette advice. I'm not good on this. I would 1,000% not bring a gift, right? You're not going to buy this couple 2 gifts. What are you going to get him, a blender and another blender? That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous.
I'm like, they don't need the blender. This couple, they have enough money. They don't need me to get them a blender. I'll cut them a check when they walk down the aisle. That's about it.
I hate to ask you, Zach. I don't know your relationship status right now. Is this an intriguing situation? Are we scouting for talent to the engagement party? Maybe setting up a wedding down the road?
All I will say is I am always a popular commodity whenever I get invited to those things. That's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to get into too many details and play my hand here and show my cards. That's all I'm going to say.
I assume you're batting at least 400. I mean, at minimum a wedding. I mean, we're talking probably above 500. The OPS off the charts.
Whatever analytics you want to use, I do a pretty good job, I would say. That's all we're going to say. I don't need to get into any other details. I don't want to upset anybody that could potentially be listening out there. Zach, you got to be careful. You cannot show your hand tonight at the engagement party, because there's a wedding. So you have to play it cool tonight because you can make a mistake tonight that will cost you at the wedding. I would think the wedding is now over a year from now. I would say most people are going to forget what happens at the engagement party.
You're good.
Yeah. It's not like, hey, they got engaged party and then 3 months from now is the wedding. Then the playbook would say something a little bit different, Perloff. But, all righty, let me ask you this. Your Eagles, where are you at confidence-wise with the Eagles, what you've seen through the first 3 weeks of the season so far?
Down, very down. Now, for this game specifically, it looked like there was going to be no Devontae Smith and no A.J. Brown. Then I just saw practice footage of A.J. Brown looking pretty okay. So that's good. But I was worried until last week about the defense because there's so many missed tackles. Felt like last year was continuing into this year. So I was really, really worried about the defense. Now I feel a little bit better because they shut down Atlanta and they shut down New Orleans last week. So I'm pretty excited about the D being better. I'm looking at I think this 10 wins wins you this division. I'm not kidding, Zach. And I think they could get there. They are not Super Bowl challengers.
Well, the Eagles are easily going to win this division. The Commanders, I would actually say right now, if the Eagles aren't going to win the division, that's the team that would fear me the most. The Cowboys are just so mid. They're not bad, but the Cowboys aren't a good team. What did you think of Dallas last night?
So I'm not as down as everybody is on Dallas because their run defense was actually pretty good last night. Mozzie Smith graded out really high on Pro Football Focus, the second-year tackle. I love Overshawn. Doesn't feel like Overshawn is the only guy who makes any tackles there. So here's all I'll say. They have a young offensive line. It'll be better by the end of the year. Tyler Guyton couldn't have been worse last night. Cooper Beebe, their rookie center, has been good. I think that they're no Super Bowl. I don't even think they're making 12-5. I think they still could be a winning team, which I don't think you think.
No, I think that they're like an 8-9 team, maybe 9-8 at best.
Yeah, I think that they're 9-8, right? I think they're 9-8, 10-7. Right? Is that bad? Is that below where the expectation is right now?
Yeah, I would think it's more. I think it's more like if you ask me this, you think it's more likely they make the playoffs or go 7-10? I would say 7-10 right now.
I go make the playoffs.
Okay. All right, 2 more, then we'll get to the picks.
Okay.
Something that Maggie said that I thought was ridiculous this week. You know, I can't be disingenuous here and just say that I'm going to take shots on the air and then hide when you guys get on here. Deion Sanders as the coach, if you're looking to build a program? What take was that? Who was your coach?
I went with Steve Sarkisian, and I admitted I just wanted offensive fireworks.
And that's because Sully's also friendly with Sark. So you're probably friendly with Sark.
I am a Sark fan. But also, you get the number 1 quarterback in the country, you're going to score a ton, you might not win a title. I didn't want to go Kirby. So I went Sark, and I thought that was a wild off-the-board choice. Then Maggie goes with Deion. I couldn't understand it. It made me so mad. I immediately yelled to my producer, put up a poll. Who would you want as a coach? Just to see Deion land at like 2%. And the vitriol online was crazy. A lot of people I know were like, I love you, Maggie, but that's the worst choice I ever heard. I heard that over and over again.
And I guess if you're looking to take Coach Prime, it's okay. Someone that could get big-time players and also can create some juice and some buzz around a program. Like, I would easily go Lane Kiffin before Coach Prime off those standards, if I'm looking just for those standards.
Absolutely. And I think EJ picked Lane Kiffin or mentioned Lane Kiffin. The most popular choice was Kirby Smart. But I have a question about Kirby as an obvious choice. Yes, he's awesome at Georgia. If you're starting a program from scratch, do we really know who he is as a coach? Is he a program builder? It didn't jump out to me.
That's fair. Now, Georgia isn't I know Georgia has always been a pretty damn good program, but they haven't got to this level before Kirby Smart got there, where, hey, they were neck and neck with Alabama and overtook them for a 2-year period. That's why I think this weekend, I walked into this week thinking there was more pressure on Alabama. I actually think there's more pressure now on Georgia, because if Georgia can't beat Alabama now, when you have DeBoer coming in first time at it, I think it'd be a worse look for Georgia than Alabama this weekend.
Oh, that's a great point. I think Kalen DeBoer still got a little bit of a honeymoon phase too. I think Georgia, after the Kentucky game, I think we're all looking at them sideways. It's like, was that 2-year title run a blip, or is that real? Because that Georgia game terrified me. I don't know if you got a chance to watch it. I had Carson Beck in Penn as the number 1 overall pick, and now I do not. So I totally agree. I don't think DeBoer has that kind of pressure at all. There's going to be 12 teams, so I think Alabama's going to make it anyway. If Kirby and Georgia lose this game, it's going to really rattle the college football world. I totally agree.
All righty. Let me then ask you one more thing before we get to picks, Andrew Perloff. Because it's like you were reading my mind. I was going to ask you this. One of my favorite things I've ever done at this network was when myself, yours, you, and then also JR, we all did that draft show together in Las Vegas. That was really fun. And I know that you are like crazy when it comes to the NFL draft. You scout prospects that no one's ever even heard of, and then they go in the 6th round, and you're obsessing over the 3rd day of the draft. So just right now, I'm not going to ask you to go like the 6th round or 7th round pick. You said it was Beck. Now it's not. Who is your favorite quarterback in a draft class this year where I don't think there is a generational talent at the quarterback position? You know
who I fell in love with. I've been in love with him. I think I've talked to you about it before. I loved him in Incarnate Word. I loved him at Washington State. I love Cameron Ward III. I don't know if he's a third. I love Cam Ward just because he's Mahomes. Everyone talks about Dylan Raiola in Nebraska being the next Mahomes. Cam Ward throws it from all over the place, every arm angle, and he's big, and he's a great, great dude. I think Cam Ward has number 1 written all over him. I think Beck is still in play. And I do think Shedeur is not far off. I actually think he's a top 10 pick as well. So I think those guys are going to compete with. And then there's a couple guys I'm not sure about. I don't know. I have no idea if can I ask you Jackson Dart? Do you see anything there? College guy, or is there anything as a program?
I don't think he's a 1st-round pick. He's going to have a monster season this year. He's off to a great start. He'll probably end up being a Heisman finalist. Do I think he's going to be a 1st-round pick? I would say no, but I also would have never thought that Bo Nix was going to go in the 1st round. He went with the 12th overall pick.
I was about to say the exact same thing. If I told you before his final year that Bo Nix was going to be the 12th pick, You saw him at Auburn. There was no way that guy was a 12th pick. So, that last year means a lot. Jaden Daniels, I never thought he was going to be a first-round pick, and now here we are.
All righty, let's get to the picks, Stu. Let's hit the music.
It's time for NFL picks on the Zach Gelb Show.
All righty, Perloff, we do 3 picks. No pressure on you. Trista Crick last week, she was 3-0, and I was 3-0. So we're probably going to go 0-6 combined this week. I'll let you go. Yeah, go ahead.
I got to follow Trista? That's not fair. I'm a huge fan of Trista. You should have had me on first and her second.
Probably. But give me your first pick. Who do you like this week?
All right, a bit of emotional hedge. I'm an Andy Dalton fan. For that very reason, I scouted him since he was at Katy High School. I, however, think it's going to be a high-scoring game, but the Panthers lose to the Bengals, who are desperate, -4.5. I'm fine with those points. I think Cincinnati scores a lot of points and wins this game big time over Carolina. I'm taking the Cincinnati Bengals.
All righty, so Perloff takes the Bengals laying 4.5. For my first pick, I wrote this down earlier in the week. They were a 2.5-point dog when I wrote it down. Now they are a 2.5-point favorite. Here we go, Brownies. Here we go. Hoo, hoo. I'm taking the Cleveland Browns up against the Raiders. I know the Browns have a bunch of injuries, but the Raiders are without Max Crosby and Devontae Adams in this one. I can't stand Deshaun Watson. I thought what he said earlier in the week was so weak, and he's basically telling you he's not willing to do whatever it takes to win. But I think the Browns find a way to get the job done on the road, and they will cover this 2.5-point spread.
All right, I floated this theory to Stu. Is this a real injury with Devontae Adams, or is this something else going on?
That's a great question. Yeah. It would not be surprised if his feelings are hurt a little bit, but I'm going to take the injury report for its word because Adams, he keeps on saying he wants to be there, and I do believe he wants to be there. I don't think he's going to get traded by the deadline. I do believe, though, after this season, he will get traded somewhere else because the guy wants to go win a Super Bowl, and that's not going to happen. Sorry, Stu, with the Raiders. So what's your second pick?
Okay. Home underdog, Colts Steelers. I love the Steelers. Big fan. But, I mean, come on. Why? They should not be a 2-point favorite on the road in this game because they haven't scored more than 20 points in a game. I don't think Anthony Richardson is prepared to be an NFL quarterback. But I think it's going to be a low-scoring, slug-it-out game. And give me a couple points, 2 points in the Colts. I feel good about this.
Yeah, I actually see the line at +2.5. So I will give you that extra half point because I'm a benevolent guy here. And I do what's right. If I was on your show doing this, you'd probably say, nope, you said 2 points, so it's not going to be that. So Perloff will take the Colts +2.5, yeah?
Yeah, I'm on DraftKings at +2 right now. So I'll definitely take 2.5. That's great.
Yeah, I'm very benevolent. All righty, my next game, I'm taking the Rams on the road. I get it. 1:00 p.m. Eastern time game always scares me. When you have to go to Chicago, that's a concern. Early kick. West Coast making the trip across the country are pretty much about that. I'm not always great at geography. But the Bears shouldn't be a 3-point favorite up against the Rams, let alone a 3-point favorite maybe up against any team. I will take the Rams to win the game outright. I like the Rams +3. But I have to ask you a question off this game. I know you were very close with Big Cat from Barstool and Part of My Take. You guys used to eat donuts together. He probably used to watch you play basketball when you were living in Brooklyn. Caleb Williams, with what we've seen so far, 1, no concern, 10, all the concern in the world. Where are we at number-wise on the bus meter for Andrew Perloff with 1 Caleb Williams?
4. Wait, I can't remember which was concerned or not. I'm mildly concerned.
Okay, first 10 all the concern in the world.
Yeah, 4. Now, you put that C on your helmet and you forget how to play quarterback. But did you notice in the second half last week, he started to get a flow? So I don't love Shane Waldron, their offensive coordinator, but I did see some things last week. I think he's going to get better and better. The problem is C.J. Stroud and now Jaden Daniels. There's some fluke rookie guys are just amazing. But Caleb's too young. He's 21. He's not going to be that guy. I think he is a good Trevor Lawrence. So I'm only at a 4. What's your number?
I would say that's fair. I do think the coaching is a problem. The offensive line sucks. So I'd probably put it at a 3, quite frankly. I still believe he's going to be a really good player. But they got to get rid of Eberflus and this staff after this season. And the Bears have to stop being cheap. Like, Belichick is out there. Mike Vrabel is out there. They didn't back up the Brinks truck for Jim Harbaugh, which is a mistake. They got to do that for Belichick or Vrabel.
Yeah, I mean, though, I think Clint Kubiak's going to be the name next year. An purely offensive guy. Like, I'm not sure I want Vrabel. You know, he has a defensive coach now. Give him an offensive coach, but that's not bad.
What about Johnson on the Lions? Does he finally take a job?
Yeah, but I don't know if he takes that Chicago job.
Okay.
Because didn't he turn down Washington? You know, he was on the. So I think he wants the ideal situation. I don't think Chicago. You know, it's just history. Do they ever get rolling on offense? Not really. I mean, it's been a long time, so I don't think that's a job.
All right, give me your last pick here, Perloff.
Okay, and they're terrible, and I don't like them as a team, but I am all about the Jags plus 6.5 against Houston. Now, it's a divisional game. The Jags played the Texans tough in the past. I'm not sold on my Texans right now. I looked at them as a Super Bowl pick right now. They looked obviously very bad last week against Minnesota. I'm not sure they're firing on all cylinders. 6.5 feels like way too many points. I would have set this line at 4.5. So I feel pretty good with those points in the Jags.
All righty, my last pick. Aaron Rodgers was an absolute liar earlier in this week. He said the beef between him and Sean Payton, it's over. He doesn't care what he said about Nathaniel Hackett. As Coach Prime would say, bull junk. Aaron Rodgers is going to be motivated. He's going to be PO'd, and he is going to destroy the Broncos this weekend. Give me the Jets laying 7.5 points at home. Love the Jets in this one. So I take the Brownies minus 2.5, the Rams plus 3, the Jets laying 7.5, and Perloff goes with the Jaguars plus the 6.5, the Colts plus 2.5, and the Bengals laying 4.5 points. Thanks for doing this. I appreciate it.
I appreciate it. I hope that 2.5 number comes through because I have actually bet on it at Colts plus 2. That would be very generous of you, Zach Gelb. Hey, and I want a full report on Monday. I gotta get in here. I gotta live vicariously for you.
Oh, okay. Oh, going back to what we talked about earlier.
About the engagement party. Yeah, not on the bets.
Just don't hit me up tonight at about 2 a.m. and I'll give you a full report coming up on Sunday morning, my friend. All right?
All right, buddy.
There you go. Andrew Perloff joining us on the Infinity Sports Network. You can listen to him and also Maggie Gray in the mornings, weekdays, 6 to 10 a.m. Eastern Time, 3 to 7 a.m. Pacific. All righty. We will take a timeout. We will come on back. When we do return, we will get into why the Bengals are no, we're doing news brief on the other side. My bad. I was looking at the wrong down. I read it the wrong way. We will get to a news brief on the other side. 2-minute drill. Don't worry. I threw a football. It got tipped up in the air, but we recovered it. We're good. All right, update time here, Zach.
Infinity Sports Network. Sports Flash.
It is subject to replay and review. Jordan Love has seemingly been a quick healer. He's practiced this week and is now listed as questionable against the Vikings after missing 2 games with a sprained knee. The Browns coming off a loss and have lost both starting tackles for Sunday with Jedrick Wills and Jack Conklin both out, as well as tight end David Njoku will miss his 3rd straight game. And the Raiders, who host Cleveland, have their own concerns with a half a dozen players ruled out, among them Devontae Adams, Max Crosby, and Michael Mayer. Demario Davis's hamstring will keep him out for the Saints, meaning he'll miss the first game of his 13-year career due to injury. The Eagles' wide receiving core is a little thin. Devontae Smith is out with a concussion. A.J. Brown is questionable. Cowboys star Micah Parsons was carted off last night. He has a high ankle sprain. And DeMarcus Lawrence could miss several weeks due to a foot injury, while Russell Wilson remains questionable for the Steelers. So Justin Fields getting ready to start his 4th straight game. Baseball this afternoon on the north side of Chicago is the Cubs blanking the Reds 1-0 as Jamison Tyone went 7 scoreless innings and allowed 2 hits. I'm Rich Ackerman.
This is the Infinity Sports Network. Follow us on Instagram. Our handle is Infinity Sports Network. That's Infinity Sports Network to follow us on Instagram.
You're in a 5-minute break. 4 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Time for your daily news brief. We get you caught up on the rumors, reports, and reconnaissance from the day in sports.
And this portion of the Zach Gelb Show is brought to you by Sleeper. Just download the Sleeper app today and use code BLOCK when signing up. Must be present in certain states. Visit sleeper.com for details. Sponsored by Blitz Studios. Let's hear from Jerry Jones. How about them Cowboys? Courtesy of KNC Masterpiece on 105.3 The Fan in Dallas. Here is Jerry Jones on the Cowboys' 5-point victory, their close victory up against the New York Football Giants.
I was very impressed with the Giants. I thought their quarterback was better than I thought he was. I thought they were solid in the offensive line. That's better than I thought they were. So they were a tough matchup. I thought we did a heck of a job defending their run, and we needed to. And, of course, their quarterback is a load. But I thought they had a real the Giants, solid game. We responded to it, won the game. I'm tickled to death.
He is tickled to death. That's like putting lipstick on a pig. I've used that line a lot this week. That was not a great performance by the Cowboys. And the Giants aren't this good football team. Their line's better from what it was last year. Daniel Jones was okay in the game, but he couldn't make big throws, and that's why they ended up losing the game. But, Stu, if you heard Jerry Jones speak about Daniel Jones, that was confusing real quickly with the now that Jones is there. You would have thought he was like a rookie quarterback, and this was his first time seeing him, correct?
Yes, you would, but
he's in the league for his sixth season.
Yeah.
Okay. So Jerry wants to take his bows and take all the bouquets for beating the Giants. Be my guess. You can beat the Giants. Can you beat anybody else? So this is a good one. Maybe this is why Rex Ryan and Bill Belichick don't get along. Here is Bill O'Brien on the Games with Names podcast with Julian Edelman. Bill O'Brien sharing a great Bill Belichick-Matthew Castle story.
Bill would come in later in the week, meet with the quarterbacks, and Bill would take his shoes off. And Bill, as you know, Bill didn't wear socks.
Yeah.
So and at that time, the quarterback meeting room was pretty small. And so I remember this one meeting, and Matt Castle was like, "What is that smell? Like, what is that smell?" And like nobody says anything, and we're all like, Matt Castle, he was the very funny guy who didn't care about making anyone uncomfortable. He loved making you, and so he was like, no, seriously, like, what is that? Bill, is that your feet? And Bill, I'll never forget this. Bill looked at him and goes, "Castle, just shut the fuck up."
Castle, just shut up. That's a great story. But if I criticize Mac Hollins for walking around New York City without his shoes on, I think, Bill, when you're in a meeting, you got to have shoes on. It's a bad job by Bill Belichick. Go. Don't text me. Shut the bleep up. Let's go to Nick Saban on Kalen DeBoer taking over for him as the head coach of Alabama. This is on the Pat McAfee Show.
He's done a fabulous job, in my opinion, of transitioning, because this is probably one of the most difficult things. He's showing no ego and taking over. He and I have a really good relationship, and the changes that he's made still put his sort of stamp on things. So I've been really impressed with him. I think maybe he's one of the few guys that could have done this as seamlessly as it's been for him and the players.
I hate to be the I told you so guy, but that's why Kalen DeBoer was the perfect hire. He doesn't have an ego, and he doesn't get caught up in all this drama and BS. And that's a guy that you need to hire who's been successful as a coach to take over at Alabama, because he won't end up being his worst enemy. Because some guys can get in and you hear, even if you win a national championship, you're not as good as Saban, though. Saban won all these now. Like, there's such a standard and a certain excellence that's required. And even if Alabama ends up struggling at some point this season, Kalen DeBoer is equipped to be able to take all that, and it's not going to ruin him. Let me go to Rich Samini, who covers the Jets. He was on the Flight Deck podcast. Would Hassan Reddick want to go back to the Eagles?
Let's put it this way. A little birdie told me that Reddick, I don't think, would be opposed to something like that. I think Reddick is so frustrated with the Jets situation, and of course he did request a trade in August, so frustrated that he wouldn't mind going back to Philadelphia. Again, heard it from a little birdie. Take it for what it's worth.
Hey, Stu, he said a little birdie at the end. Play me that in the beginning. Did I hear that correctly? Go ahead.
Let's put it this way. A little birdie told me.
A little birdie told me.
A little birdie told me.
That's an unfortunate just slip up right there, but funny. Yeah, I think Hassan Reddick would want to go back because the Jets aren't paying him. So why would you want to leave a place that you called home? And you grew up in Camden, and you played for Temple at Lincoln Financial Field, obviously. And I would say, hey, Bryce Huff, Hassan Reddick, just do the trade. But then the Eagles paid Bryce Huff a ridiculous amount of money. And let's be real, Bryce Huff so far has been non-existent. So I think he played better for the Jets because he's used to that system and that team. But the money on that deal, I don't think the Jets would do it at this point. And finally, here's Dave Portnoy on Barstool Sports. Listen to this, what he's saying in offering to Michigan.
Michigan, I will be the quarterback guy. You just say, Dave, you go. I'll talk to Sharon. Who do you guys want? Who's in there? Give me a group. I'll go get them. I will sign them $1 million, $2 million, whatever it is.
What's the top?
$3 million. I'm going to get us a top 10 quarterback in the portal coming out every year. Top 10 quarterback.
So I listened to the college show that they do for gambling and then also the NFL show. Barstool Sports Advisors. That's the NFL show with Stu Feiner and Big Cat and Portnoy and Jersey Jerry, which I love. I watch it every Friday. I got to delay that tonight, so I'll probably have to watch that on Saturday because I have plans tonight. But I watched the entirety of that college show. He said that's his offer, but also he said, I don't know if Michigan would take my money because it's not like, oh, I'm just going to write you a check and then I'm going to expect you to go get the quarterback. He wants to have a say in that process. But Michigan should take him up on that. You have Warren and Orgy right now. Those guys combined shouldn't even be getting $1 million. And this guy's willing to offer you $3 million and you go get a good quarterback? Yeah. Good job there by a Michigan man in Dave Portnoy. All right, we'll take a time out. This is Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. Bills and Ravens, Sunday Night Football on NBC. Who has the better quarterback? Is it Josh Allen or is it the two-time MVP, Lamar Jackson? We discuss next. 855-212-4227.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 2 minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
To infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Alrighty, rocking and rolling. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. Hour number 3 of our radio program. Still to come, onside, offside. We do that every Monday and Friday. That will come your way 20 minutes from now. And we will chat a little bit about the Cincinnati Bengals coming up at 5:40 p.m. Eastern Time today. Got Alabama, Georgia on the docket this weekend. We did lead the show with that, and why I think there's more pressure on Georgia than Alabama this weekend. And we also discussed last night Cowboys-Giants game where the Cowboys win, but they kind of show you that they're just a mid-football team this year. I do not expect them to make the playoffs, and I think that they are closer to a 7 or an 8-win team rather than a team that's going to get 9 or 10 wins and ultimately end up making the playoffs. So let me get into the Sunday Night Football game this week. You know what? I would say, just first thought, this is the best game of the weekend. But sometimes you say that and you go, Then you go through the whole schedule, like, maybe not. So I'm going to say that, yes, Bills-Ravens is the best game of this week. Anything else, rival it. Saints-Falcons, no. Rams-Bears, no. Vikings-Packers, assuming Love plays, that's a good game. But I still think Ravens and Bills is better. Steelers-Colts, no. Broncos-Jets, no. Eagles-Buccaneers, good game, but no. Bengals-Panthers, no. Jaguars-Texans, no. Commanders-Cardinals, could be a good fantasy football game. You know, that's a lot of points there. Jaden Daniels and Kyler Murray. Pats-Niners, no way. Browns-Raiders, forget about it. Chiefs-Chargers, could be a fun game, but I got to see where Herbert is from a health standpoint. Titans-Dolphins, no. And then Seahawks-Lions, that's a sneaky good Monday night game. Because the Lions are 2-1, and the Seahawks have surprised people being 3-0. And Detroit's a 3.5-point favorite. Detroit's got to win that game. They really do. You know, Seattle and the Vikings are the two teams this week that if either are 4-0 come Tuesday, because we know that the Vikings play on Sunday, and then you have the Seahawks play on Monday. If both those teams are 4-0 come Tuesday, that would really be something. Who would have thought that before the season started, that Vikings and Seahawks both could potentially be 4-0? But I think both those teams are going to go down this weekend or leading into Monday too. But when I get to Bills and Ravens, before the season, I think most people would say, when you look at the top 3 quarterbacks in football, one was obviously Mahomes. I think even off the injury because of the playoff success that he's had, 2 would be Joe Burrow. And then there was a debate. How do you kind of, if we did top 5, let's just say, order up 3, 4, and 5? For me, going into this season, it was Josh Allen 3, Lamar Jackson 4, and then I had C.J. Stroud in at 5. Rodgers could have a thing or two to say about that by the end of the year, but let's see him dominate. I know he played great up against the Patriots, but let's see him do it up against better competition. So I look at just Lamar and Josh Allen. If you look at the resumes so far, Lamar has had the more accolades. He's won 2 MVPs. Now, they did go up head-to-head in the playoffs once, and you saw Josh Allen defeat Lamar Jackson. It was a cold night game. I want to say it was a Saturday night game, if memory serves me right. Lamar threw a pick 6. It was like a 100-yard pick 6, or maybe even a $102 to Teron Johnson. And Lamar actually got knocked out later on in the game, unfortunately suffered a concussion. But you look at postseason moments between those two quarterbacks, really, you think of Josh Allen over Lamar, and Josh gets knocked for not getting that team to a Super Bowl yet. And Lamar hasn't got that team to a Super Bowl yet. They both played in an AFC title game each. But you look at Josh Allen, I would say his 2 playoff moments that people remember the most, and I know he was great, surgical. I was at that game where it was -2 degrees in Buffalo, and they just destroyed, annihilated the Patriots, and Josh Allen was phenomenal in the game. But I think nationally, when you talk about Josh Allen in the playoffs, the 2 games people are going to most positively rave about him are actually 2 games that he lost. It was that unbelievable game, divisional round, the 13-second game up against the Kansas City Chiefs, but they lost. Not his fault. And then last year, I don't know about you, Stu. I think it was very 50-50 the following day when Josh Allen lost that game to Patrick Mahomes and Tyler Bass missed a kick. I think some people said, hey, Josh couldn't step up and deliver when the game was on the line. But I think once cooler heads did prevail, and I'll even acknowledge, I remember we had Sal Capaccio on after that game, and I was a little critical of Josh. Not like overly critical, but just like a little critical. Hey, it's another game where he's going up against the Chiefs and they don't get the job done. The 13-second, I don't put any of that on him, but this one you can. And Sal brought up 2 great points. He's like, was Josh Allen the one that missed the kick? And I was like, no. He brought 3 great points. He's like, was Josh Allen the one that hit Stephon Diggs right in the hands down the sideline, making basically a 70-yard throw, and Stephon Diggs dropped the ball? And I was like, no, he wasn't the one that dropped it. And then friend of the show, so maybe we'll keep his name out of here, but was the offensive lineman that we're friendly with in the Buffalo Bills that got pushed back a little bit. One of my good friends from Temple, Deion Dawkins. All right, I said his name. Was he the one that got pushed back, which made Josh throw that ball a little bit higher up when he had a man in the end zone? And I was like, was that Josh who got pushed back? I was like, no. And when Sal said it that way, there's like, I'll admit it when I think one thing and then someone gives me a better argument. I have no shame in that. And he was right. So like Josh has played well enough to beat the Chiefs, but he hasn't beat the Chiefs yet. So it's like you look at both those quarterbacks. It could be weird to say that Josh is the better quarterback than Lamar Jackson, but I do believe that's the case. And I know people could say, well, Zach, what makes Josh the better quarterback if you lay out your argument this way? Both having got the job done in the postseason. Josh Allen has never won an MVP. Lamar has not only won an MVP, one was unanimous. So you have 2 MVPs. I just think when it comes to playing the quarterback position, like if it was based off of just running, yeah, Lamar Jackson is a better runner than Josh Allen. He is. Lamar Jackson, you can make the case, is the greatest rushing quarterback of all time. And I think most people would acknowledge that to be true. But it's not like Josh can't run. Josh runs a lot. Actually, to his own detriment. People ask Josh to run less. That's how much he runs. Because he bulldozes people or tries to bulldoze people. And he doesn't know when to give up on a play. And that's something I'll give Lamar a lot of credit for. When Lamar gets hurt, it's not because he's running north-south and he injures himself standing up too long and not knowing when to slide. He does a good job with how much he exposes his body in not taking as many hits as you would think when he breaks free and starts to run. But Josh Allen, his arm, and I think I'm the biggest defender in the national media of Lamar Jackson. And it's weird to group myself in the national media, but I am in the national media. But I've defended Lamar a lot. And up until last year, I've always defended Lamar. But when you dominated teams in the regular season, I didn't think the sample size was big enough in the postseason. And then you are the team with the number 1 overall seed. The road travels through Baltimore. And Kansas City was vulnerable. And they weren't as strong as they've been before. You had to get to the Super Bowl last year. Like, I'm not even saying win it. You had to get there. And they had one good half up against the Texans. And then they ended up losing to the Chiefs in a game where their offense failed to show up. And Patrick Mahomes said all I needed to be was a game manager to win that game. That was a bad look for Lamar. But from an arm talent standpoint, even though I'm a Lamar defender, and I think Lamar is a better passer than what people give him credit for, Josh Allen has a better arm. And it's not even close. So I look at both of these quarterbacks. They're 2 top 5 quarterbacks in the league. But I have to put Josh Allen in front of Lamar Jackson, even though Josh Allen's only made the Pro Bowl 2 times and Lamar Jackson has 2 MVPs. I just think when you watch Josh Allen, like if I surveyed 32 general managers, Stu, would all 32 say that they would rather have Josh Allen over Lamar Jackson, in your opinion?
I don't think all 32 would.
Okay. How many out of the 32?
I'd say most, so I'd say maybe let's say 24.
Okay.
3/4.
Here's the good question. This is how I like to do this. If you ask the Baltimore Ravens, you sit down John Harbaugh, and John is being honest. And John, to his credit, they built the entire offense around Lamar, right? The Ravens adjusted to Lamar. They said, Lamar is great. We believe in Lamar. We are going to make Lamar the focal point and not just run a traditional offense. But if John Harbaugh, as much as he loves Lamar Jackson, if I ask him for the next 5 years, and I'm not even going to go 10, the next 5 years, would you rather have Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson? I think if we hooked him up to a lie detector test, and this is nothing against Lamar, and he said Lamar, that would be a lie. I think he'd rather have Josh Allen. How about you? Yeah, you don't seem to agree with that. I can tell by your facial expression.
I think it's so close to where, I don't know. I'm trying to think if you gave them Josh Allen, I think they're better. Does he think they're better? I don't know. He might have that soft side for Lamar.
Okay.
I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but I just think it's close enough to where I think he would still rather have Lamar.
Okay.
And I think there are probably a few coaches that would value what Lamar does more than Allen. Maybe 24, maybe that's a little low. Maybe it's more like 28. Maybe it's more like 28-4, 27-5. But I think there are still some that would rather have Lamar.
Okay. Interesting point. You know where I would put it this way? I would rather have Josh Allen in Miami, let's say,
right,
than Lamar Jackson in Miami. Like if I was constructing a team. But could you imagine if you ever put Lamar on the Dolphins? Like a few years ago when Lamar was available, and I get it, a lot of people thought if they had to, eventually the Ravens would match. But when he was available for 2 first-round picks, could you imagine Lamar with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle? Just the speed of that team. With Raheem Mostert and Devon Achane? It's like, how would you catch anyone? You couldn't. So like a team like Miami, even though Josh Allen owns them, maybe that's a place like I'd rather have Lamar over Josh Allen, potentially. But here's what's at stake this year. I think a lot of people are out on the Ravens and they were out on the Bills before the season started. I think people are now back in on the Bills. I don't think people are back in on the Ravens yet, especially how they lost that game to the Chiefs. They couldn't get a toe down. They lost the game to the Raiders. They blew the lead. And then they beat the Cowboys. They dominated the first half, and then they almost choked the game away in the fourth quarter. If the Ravens want to enter back into the circle of trust in the NFL fan, you beat the Bills this week. But I think to further this conversation of what we're having, we all know Mahomes, even though he's not playing like it right now, and you could say that, Mahomes is still viewed as the best quarterback in football. And that will be the case for the foreseeable future. But that 2 spot is up for grabs. Because Joe Burrow got hurt last year. It's been Burrow. If the Bengals end up having Joe Burrow stay healthy and they continue these losing ways and they miss the playoffs this year, even though Burrow was really good in the game the other night, and I don't blame Burrow for the loss, you will see that second spot, which it was Burrow's, the nameplate for Joe Burrow will be taken down and others will go into that conversation. And if I just ask the simple question of, if let's say Burrow is no longer perceived to be the second best quarterback in the NFL, like let's say at the end of the year we're saying, okay, Burrow's no longer the second best quarterback in the league. Who is the most likely to take that second spot? I think it's Josh Allen. I really do. Like if you ask me, who do you see having the better regular season and also parlaying it into a postseason run? Is it more likely Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson? I would say it is Josh Allen. Now, here is something that I thought was interesting. TJ Houshmandzadeh. I haven't had to say that name for a while. Remember when we were younger, it was like, TJ, who's your mama? That would always be a thing. He was on, is this show still called Speak for Yourself? I think it is. Or what's the name of the show? Speak? No, it's not just Speak. The name of the show is not just called Speak. Santer said Speak. Is that true? That's what I thought it was called Speak for Yourself or something on Fox. Let me just see real. Now I'm quickly. If that's just called Speak, oh no. The name of the show, well, it goes back to a photo of Whitlock. I almost forgot his name. Jason Whitlock and Colin Cowherd. And it says Speak talk show, and then it says Speak for Yourself. So I have no clue. But then on YouTube here, with the latest thing, it just says Speak. So maybe it is just called Speak. I always thought that show was called Speak for Yourself. I don't really watch it that much. I just see the clips. But TJ Houshmandzadeh was on that show. He works for Fox. And listen to what he said. I was talking about would most teams rather have Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson. And I think most teams would rather have Josh Allen. Here's TJ Houshmandzadeh saying the Ravens would trade Lamar Jackson for Joe Burrow.
Elite quarterback? Absolutely. I believe every team in the National Football League, with the exception of probably the Kansas City Chiefs and the Buffalo Bills, would trade their quarterback for Joe Burrow.
No Baltimore Ravens?
They would trade their quarterback for Joe Burrow.
Okay.
Ooh.
Come on, TJ.
That's what I believe.
Let's just safely say they not trading Lamar Jackson.
The Chiefs and the Bills. Everybody else would trade their quarterback for Joe Burrow.
I don't get why Joe Taylor is like so surprised by that. Like, I get it. TJ Houshmandzadeh is a former Bengal. And here's the ironic part. Joe Burrow, it feels like, has been more hurt than Lamar Jackson. With how many times, like, I know Lamar had to miss the ends of those 2 seasons and Joe Burrow's had to miss the end of 2 seasons, but it seems like the injuries for Joe Burrow have been bigger. But Joe Burrow's a better quarterback than Lamar. And this is coming from a Lamar defender. I am a Lamar defender, but I don't think that's crazy. Yeah, the Ravens have to completely change their offense. You know, is Zay Flowers, if that's your best number 1 wide receiver with Joe Burrow, do you have more success with that offense the way that it's designed right now with Lamar Jackson? That's a different conversation. You have to change things up. You have to adapt. And you have to probably bring in a better number 1 wide receiver than Zay Flowers because you're going to be running the ball less. But yeah, if you ask me which quarterback would you rather have, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, it's Joe Burrow. As I said before the season started, Mahomes 1, Burrow 2, Josh Allen 3, and then I put Lamar 4. So yeah, those 3 quarterbacks in front of Lamar I'd rather have. But I do think at the end of the year, we're going to be talking about Josh Allen as the second best quarterback in football because he's going to win the MVP this year. All right, it is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. We will take a timeout, and we will come on back when we do return. Stu's got some questions. I got some answers. We'll get into that next. Sports fans, listen up. 1 in 8 men will be diagnosed with prostate cancer, and bladder leaks can be a side effect. That's why Depend is teaming up with the Prostate Cancer Foundation to encourage screening, because health is a long game and it's yours to win. Now, here's the cool part. Through November, Depend is contributing up to $300,000 to prostate cancer research by donating 40 cents for every purchase of Shields guards and Real Fit products. Boyd in Mississippi. Learn more at Depend.com.
You're in a 4.5-minute break. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
taking on the most polarizing issues in sports. Which side of the line of scrimmage will he end up on?
Offside. Defense number 69.
It's Onsides, Offsides with Zach Gelb.
By the way, the latest on Justin Herbert from Ari Mirov at My Sports Update. Justin Herbert ankle and Joe Alt knee are questionable for Sunday versus the Chiefs. Defensive end Joey Bosa and Rashawn Slater, the left tackle, is dealing with a pec injury, have been ruled out. If I go back and do picks, hammer the Chargers. Hammer the Chiefs. Sorry, the Chargers are going to get hammered. Hammer the Chiefs. But I can't go back and correct those picks. Alrighty, go ahead.
All right, so as we mentioned earlier in the show, the Cowboys improved to 2-2 after a shaky 20-15 win over the Giants last night. Dak Prescott completed 82% of his passes for 221 yards, 2 touchdowns, and no interceptions. On the season, Dak already has over 1,000 yards passing with 6 touchdowns and 2 picks. So onsides, offsides, Dak is a top 3 reason the Cowboys are struggling.
So I'm usually a little bit more critical when it comes to Dak, but I don't think this is on him. I really don't. I thought he played a fine game last night. When I look at the top 3 reasons the Cowboys are struggling, I know Micah Parsons got hurt, but outside of week 1, he's kind of been irrelevant. Jerry Jones did not make this team better. And you look at a game like the Saints game with McCarthy, we have seen a trend. Home games at times, they're just not ready to go. Playoff game a few years ago against the Niners, weren't ready out of the gate. We saw last year against the Packers, not ready. Against the Saints, not ready. Against the Ravens, not ready. So you said a top 3 reason why the Cowboys are struggling. I'm going to say no. I'm actually going to not praise Dak. It's weird saying defend Dak. But I will exonerate Dak Prescott of a top 3 reason blame as to why the Cowboys are struggling. Offside.
Offside.
That was a surprise. Big surprise.
Definitely. The Eagles, they travel to Tampa to take on the Bucks, assuming Hurricane Helene is out of town by then. Both teams are 2-1, with the Eagles coming off of a win, while the Bucks were handed their first loss in a shocker to the Broncos. Onsides, offsides, this game is more important for the Eagles than it is for the Bucks.
Let me first say, everyone having to deal with the hurricane, I hope everything turns out for the best, and I wish you all the luck in the world, and also just hope that everything's okay, thinking about everyone that's having to go through this hurricane and this unfortunate thing right now. With that being said, to answer your question, this game is more important for the Eagles than the Bucks. I'm going offside, and here's why. The Eagles can lose this game and still win this division. That's how bad I think this division is. The Cowboys, mid. Commanders, solid, but they'll have some games where, even though I think Jaden Daniels is going to be really good, you're going to see some of the youth on this team play like they are young players in this league. And the Giants, they stink. Okay? So if the Eagles are 2-2 after this, I'm not going to sit here and say, hey, the Eagles season is doomed. For the Buccaneers, every game is important in a division that we thought was really bad. And I know the Panthers won last week, but I'm not going to consider them as potentially winning the division. But the other 3 teams in that division, you could make a legitimate case that they win the division. Like Tampa Bay is a good team that won the division last year. I don't believe in Derek Carr when push comes to shove, but the Saints are 2-1. And the Falcons, they're 1-2, but they lost to the Chiefs, and quite frankly, they should have won the game. And they had a tight game with the Steelers when Kirk Cousins wasn't even anywhere close to 100% and still isn't. So I just think it's more important for the Bucs in this game. And also, you have to look at injuries too. Devontae Smith out. A.J. Brown's questionable. How effective is he going to be? This is set up for Tampa Bay at home to get a dub. So I think this game is more important for the Bucs than the Eagles. And that's another question I don't think when I first read it I would answer it that way. But that's how I'm going to answer it when you say this game is more important for the Eagles than the Bucs. I will go offside.
Offside. We get a real treat tomorrow as number 4 Alabama hosts number 2 Georgia.
What am I going to do for food for this game?
Yeah, it feels like a food game, a big food game.
It's 7:30 p.m. Eastern time kick. Food-wise for this game. See, here's the tricky part. Saturday, if you do a food game, how does that impact the food that you usually do for Sunday?
Gotta take it a little easier on Sunday, I feel like.
Yeah, because back-to-back gluttonous days.
Yeah.
Maybe, you know what? I think I know what I'm going to do for Saturday. Maybe I'll make a pizza. Like, I'll go to the store, get the dough, get some mutts,
Yeah.
get a little pepperoni, and put it in the oven. Maybe I'll make a pizza. I can do a little pizza on Saturday. And, you know, not the healthiest thing in the world, but when you make the pizza at home, it's not the most gluttonous thing ever. Get some of those red pepper flakes, too. Do pizza for Saturday. Maybe a bag of chips as well. Big bag of chips. A little queso, too. Could go pigs in the blank. I don't know. It's now I'm going to get too gluttonous. But I think I go pizza Saturday. You know what I haven't had in a while? And since I wasn't feeling great this week, I have done soup, and now I feel good today. I could potentially see Sunday. Big Sunday night game, too. Bills and Ravens. Could be the Chinese food night.
Ooh.
Pork fried egg roll. Little General Tso's chicken. Little wonton soup. And then some spare ribs, too. Little pizza Saturday night. Chinese food Sunday night. It's a good weekend. Could go Indian food, too, on Sunday.
Ooh.
I haven't had Rogan Josh in a long time. That could be good, too. I need something spicy. A little spicy on Sunday. All righty, what do we got?
So we have Bama and Georgia tomorrow, what might turn out to be the biggest game of the regular season in college football. And while many believe that Georgia has surpassed Alabama as the sports dominant program, former Bama running back Damian Harris joined us yesterday, and he told us otherwise.
They're still the little brother to Alabama. Don't get me wrong. They're still the little brother, and Kirby knows that. So it's personal. This is going to be personal for both teams.
I think a lot of people believe that Georgia has moved past Alabama. You still said Georgia's little brother. Explain that a little bit.
Because what did you just say? 2 out of the past 3 years. I mean, granted, this is a business of what have you done for me now? So I definitely understand that. Production-based business, what is your most recent success? I get that. Now, of course, hats off to Kirby. Much respect. They have won the national championship 2 of the last 3 years. They have built a very, very successful, dominant program. But they are not Alabama. They are not Alabama. It's not. It's plain and simple. They just are not Alabama. They do not have the pedigree that we have. They do not have the consistent level of success. So let's look at this from a totality perspective.
Gotcha.
Alabama's consistently 9-10 wins, 6 national championships, 12 years, 2 national championships in 3 years. I mean, Georgia's making some progress, but again, they're not Alabama.
Before you ask this question,
okay,
this game has completely mind-bleeped me. Earlier in the week, I saw Bama was a 2.5 point dog. I'm like, I love Alabama. Love Alabama. Then, as the week has gone on, I'm like, I kind of like Georgia. Now, last night, Marco made this point, and it's a good point. I took Dallas laying 5.5. That spread was originally 7. Usually when the line moves one way and it moves down, or even if it moves up, like, it kind of set up last night for the Giants to cover when you saw how much that line moved down. I just saw on 3 put out, Alabama is now a slight favorite to win the game over Georgia. So Georgia was the favorite early in the week. Bama was the dog. And now I guess a lot of people like Alabama, or the Sharps are liking Alabama, and it's pushing that line enough to where Alabama is the favorite. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I was Alabama. Thursday, what's that coming down the tracks? I was Georgia. Today, when I started the show, I kind of felt like Georgia. Now I'm kind of going back to Alabama.
I think I know what might be the decider. We know who Hot Take Hickey picked when he joined us Wednesday.
That's a good point, but doesn't Hickey eventually have to be right?
Yeah, he does, I guess.
And that's not like a bold enough take where it's like,
No.
oh my goodness, it's a 50-50 game.
Really is.
It's not like Hickey pulls one out of his you-know-what, and we're like, wow, what a great take that was by Hickey. Usually it's, oh, this team is so great, they're going to blow them out, and then they get blown out. So that's a good point, though. Now I could be back on Georgia. I don't know on this one. Ask me the question.
So onside, offsides, Georgia will be the better program over the next 10 years.
I still look back at Clemson. We thought Clemson was about to take over Alabama. They did for a few years, and then, hey, Georgia won 2 out of the last 3 national championships, but then Nick Saban and Alabama beat them in the SEC title game last year. I like DeBoer a lot. In a DeBoer program, there's probably not going to be a lot of off-the-field stuff like there is right now with Kirby Smart and Georgia. It's going to be really, really close. Really, really close. But there's just something about me that I can't pick against Alabama. If you'd say the next decade that Georgia will be the better program over Alabama, I'm going to go offside on that one.
Offside.
All right, in its first game in the SEC, Oklahoma lost at home to Tennessee and dropped all the way down to 21 in the polls. Tomorrow, they travel to Jordan-Hare to take on Auburn with a new quarterback under center. In 2+ seasons, Coach Brent Venables is 19-11, finishing his first season unranked, and last year 15th. So onsides, offsides, Venables can return this program to national title contenders.
Offside, and here's why. Look at Lincoln Riley and how much praise we gave Lincoln Riley for what he did at Oklahoma. He never won a playoff game. That was with multiple appearances in the college football playoff and multiple Heisman Trophy winners or Heisman Trophy finalists. Never won a playoff game. So now you add more schools to the college football playoff with 12, not 4, and you also throw Oklahoma in the SEC when they were just dominating the Big 12. Venables last week, it was a big indictment on him. And I know Tennessee, right, is a force this year and a juggernaut. But I thought if you're going to walk away impressed with a defense in that game, it'd be like, wow, Oklahoma slowed down Nico Iamaleava. But I actually take a look back and see what did transpire with Oklahoma in that game, and I walked away more impressed with Tennessee's defense. So that's why I would go offsides on that one.
All right, you got one more here. The Oakland A's have officially played their final game at the Oakland Coliseum. They beat the Rangers 3-2 in front of nearly 47,000 angry fans yesterday. Now, earlier in the week, hated owner John Fisher, he penned a letter to the fans in which he said ownership tried to build a new stadium in 5 locations, all of which were shut down by either the city or its voters. We also had a very angry Athletics fan go off on the team yesterday.
My dad didn't know what to do with me, so he brought me here. And we used to walk across that BART bridge to games, and it was like magic. It was beautiful, and that's what made me fall in love with baseball. And then I had a little brother. I brought him to baseball games. And when I went away to college, I would send him tickets to opening day every year. And he would call me for the national anthem, and he would call me for the 7th inning stretch. And he would call me for Jason Giambi's first at bat as a Yankee so I could hear the boos. And then when I had kids, I knew what to do with them. And so what did I do? I brought them here. And so that's what baseball in Oakland is. This is generations, and you're ripping that away for what? You're trying to fill a stadium with 70% visiting fans? That's ridiculous. Baby Gap, Nepo baby, guy who inherited everything. We work for ours. That's what we do in Oakland. We work. This is who we are, and we want this team to stay.
So onsides, offsides, you have a problem with Fisher moving the A's to Las Vegas.
I have a problem with John Fisher just not being honest. I don't have a problem. Let me be clear. I feel terrible for the actual fans of the Oakland Athletics that went to games for all those years and didn't just pop up in the final week of the season. All right? Like the actual fans I feel bad for. That is the worst thing when you lose a team. It just absolutely sucks. I'm not beating around the bush on this one. But if you ask me, would I rather have my baseball team in Oakland or Las Vegas? I'd rather have them in Las Vegas. Like if I'm an owner and MLB hasn't been in Las Vegas. So yeah, I have a problem with Fisher just lying and trying to make himself not be the reason why they're moving. But he could have kept that team there if he wanted to. Just say, hey, we think it's more attractive for our franchise to be in Las Vegas than Oakland. So you do have a problem with Fisher moving the A's to Vegas. I guess I'm more offsides on this. The only problem I have is that I just wish he was more transparent, which he'll never be.
Offside.
All righty, this is Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. Football is back, and what better way to celebrate than winning some cash with Sleeper Picks? Sleeper Picks is a fantasy game, but you can win real money. Just pick more or less on at least 2 player stats, and if your picks are right, you win. You can pick up to 8 players to win up to 100 times your money. And Sleeper has a couple huge offers to kickstart the football season. For new users, Sleeper will match your first deposit with up to $100 credit to your account. If you've already played, Sleeper's got discounted player projections for you every week of the season. So download the Sleeper app now and use my promo code SCORE, that's SCORE, and your first deposit will be doubled with a credit up to $100. What are you waiting for? Download Sleeper today and use code SCORE for a credit up to $100 match on your first deposit. That's code SCORE. Must be 18 years in most states and in state where it is legal. Promo code and other restrictions apply. Visit sleeper.com. Please wager responsibly. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-426-2537 for help. Paid for by Blitz Studios. When we come on back on the Zach Gelb Show, the team in the NFL that's facing the most pressure on them this weekend. We'll get into that next. Update time first. Here is the Act Man, Rich Ackerman.
Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash.
Oh, Jordan Love has made a remarkable recovery from a sprained knee. After missing 2 games, he practiced on a limited basis this week and is now listed as questionable against the Vikings. Lots of big names that are out this week. Cleveland will be out without both tackles, Jedrick Wills and Jack Conklin, and tight end David Njoku is also out with an ankle injury for the 3rd straight game. The Raiders, who are hosting Cleveland, won't have Devontae Adams, Max Crosby, or Michael Mayer. And the Chargers also down a couple of big players. Justin Herbert and Joe Alt are questionable, but Joey Bosa and Rashawn Slater have been ruled out against the Chiefs. George Kittle and Brock Purdy are off the injury report, while Deebo Samuel and Trent Williams are both questionable. And the Eagles' Devontae Adams is out with a concussion. A.J. Brown is listed as questionable. The Saints will be without Demario Davis, who is missing the first game of his career due to injury. Alvin Kamara and Chris Olave are both questionable. The Dallas defense was hit hard last night as Micah Parsons suffered a high ankle sprain. DeMarcus Lawrence reportedly expected to miss several weeks due to a foot injury. Rome Odunze will be back for the Bears. Also today at Wrigley Field, the Reds blanked by the Cubs 1-0. Jamison Tyone gets the win after 7 scoreless innings. I'm Rich Ackerman.
The Infinity Sports Network is on your smart speaker. All you have to say is play Infinity Sports Network.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. 2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Hey, this is Howie. And this is Nick from the Backstreet Boys. And you're listening to the Zach Gelb Show. And guess what? Zach is back. All right.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
Oh my God, we're back again.
It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. So I don't know if this is a big deal or not. I probably shouldn't do this because, right, as a prepared broadcaster, I should probably watch something before I'm going to comment on it. So you know what? Let's do this in live time because I'm just seeing this for the first time. Dove Kleiman, which some good, some bad from Dove. He just tweeted out. Stu, you like that, the way that I said that? I saw a little
I
snicker.
do. I feel the same way, yes.
Yeah. I like when he tweets about us. Like, let's be real. I'll be the first one to acknowledge that. Wild. 49ers star wide receiver Brandon Ayuk had to change his shorts during practice. A very interesting exchange between Ayuk and Kyle Shanahan. Now, Stu, when you hear that someone needs to change their shorts, what's the first thing you think of? Like, I kind of think of someone had a little accident in their pants.
That was my first thought, too, yes. There's a reasoning for it, yes.
But when you're on a practice field, why would Ayuk have to change his shorts? It's like, that's weird. So let me see this video here. It's Shanahan and Ayuk. They're having a conversation. Okay. It looks like they're just having a normal conversation. Shanahan doesn't look thrilled. You know, it looks like they're just having a normal conversation so far. Nothing crazy. 30 seconds. All right, they're clearly talking about something, but it doesn't have to be that Shanahan is like so annoyed. All right, I'm 40 seconds into this video. Does it pick up in intensity here? Or is this just clickbait? So far, it looks like it's just clickbait. Let's see. 45 seconds in, they're just talking with their hands. All right, Shanahan's looking a little bit more angry now. Okay. He gave him a little like, come on, what are we doing? And he's walking away. He's still talking. Shanahan's a little bit annoyed. Then Ayuk takes off his gloves. Now the camera guy's following Shanahan. You got to go to Ayuk. And Ayuk is now taking off his cleats. Okay. How did they pan away from Ayuk? He looked like he was about to pop. And then he takes off his shorts. What the heck is this? And then he kicks the shorts. Yeah, this is weird. And then he changes into a pair of black shorts. So, I don't know if the colored shorts mean something. It's a dress code thing. So everyone else had, Santer's telling me, I guess everyone else had black shorts on and he's wearing red shorts. Who gives a crap? Siri, for practice? I'm sitting here. I'm supposed to be a star wide receiver. And we here talking about shorts at practice. Not a game. Shorts at practice. We're talking about shorts at practice. Okay. Upset, baby. Here comes the Pats this weekend. Pats play the 49ers. I'm in, Stu. Start Drake May. Rip off the Band-Aid. There's a weird vibe with the 49ers. Like, I'm not going to overreact here to this video. But Ayuk has been crap through the first 3 weeks of the season. You got McCaffrey banged up. I know Debo came back to practice, but he's been banged up. Something's weird here. Something is weird here. That's all I'm going to say. All righty. That video, by the way, for the first 45 seconds, I thought it was a Dove climbing clickbait dud video. And then it picked up in intensity. But whoever that cameraman was, how you pan away to Shanahan when he's walking away, when Ayuk, and maybe they thought like, I don't know, he's going to get naked or something. I doubt it because he was taking off his pants, but he has like joggers on underneath them. And how when he's about to freak out Ayuk, how you pan away, that was just stupid. It's time to answer Ask the Pros question of the day. It's brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Adam in Louisiana says, Zach, who's the NFL team with the most pressure on them this weekend? You can submit a question by tweeting at INF Sports Center at Zach Gelb using the hashtag Ask the Pros. Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get guaranteed low prices and excellent customer service from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts. O'Reilly Auto Parts. So Cincinnati Bengals. That's the team that has the most pressure on them this weekend. They play the Carolina Panthers, the Andy Dandy Dalton revenge game. But you can't afford to start off 0-4. Like, if the Bengals start off 0-4, cancel the season. The season is over. That would be the biggest surprise of the NFL season. The Cincinnati Bengals starting 0-4. So they lost to the Pats. Everyone just chalked it up. It's their typical week one blunder. Then they should have beat the Chiefs, but they lost. And then their offense showed up, but their defense, who was great up against Kansas City, was absolutely terrible up against the Washington Commanders. Now you have the Panthers, who are hot. The Panthers who are sizzling hot. My guy, David Tepper, he can't even splash some water on those guys to put them out. That's how hot that team has been right now. You got the running back, Chuba Hubbard. 100-plus yards, 50 yards receiving. Andy Dalton looking like the Pro Bowler he used to be. Deontay Johnson over 100 yards. The offensive line playing strong. Dave Canales looking good on the sideline. All righty. The Carolina, but come on. Like, Stu.
Beat the Raiders. Doesn't count.
Oh, I wasn't even going there, but yes, they did beat the Raiders.
No, it counts. It counts.
Yeah. You know. You
barely counts.
You can't get too picky. I do that weekly on WFNZ in Charlotte. It was like they won the Super Bowl with Mac and Bone. They couldn't believe it that they actually have a victory in September. Do you remember? But let me ask you this. Can you make a case, Panthers at home, how they win this game up against Cincinnati? Because outside of just the fun of the Andy Dalton revenge game,
right?
And I know J.C. Horn's playing well, and J.C. Horn against Jamar Chase is a fun football matchup to watch this weekend.
I can't.
I can't make the case.
I can't. No. And I don't want to wish injury on anybody unless something happens to Dalton or something early. I mean, to Burrow and early in the game. I just can't see it.
Which, you don't want to think that way. But
No.
It's a possibility. 2 out of the 4 years he's been knocked out of the season, unfortunately. Yeah, Bengals have the most pressure. They lose. Like, you could survive 0-3. You could beat the Panthers. You get to 1-3. Then you have the Ravens, the Giants, and the Browns. Even if you lose the Ravens game, you could get to 3-4 and still be alive. You start off this year 0-4, and you lose to Carolina. Even the most optimistic person in the world, like Hickey, even Hickey couldn't spin that into a positive. All righty, fun week, fun show today. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. Big thanks to each and every one of you for participating and listening all throughout the week. And also, like to thank my crew, Moist Mike and Stuart Kovacs as well. Big thanks to Andrew Perloff for stopping by today. I work 7 days a week now these days. So you can hear me tomorrow on WFAN in New York for the greatest 30-minute radio show ever created from 9 to 9:30 a.m. You can listen on the free Odyssey app. And then on Sunday, you hear me right back here on the Infinity Sports Network for Sunday morning football from 10 a.m. to noon Eastern time. And then we'll be back on Monday. The crew, the band, the A crew will be all back together. And we will have the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network starting at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. Have a great weekend. Have a safe weekend. Hopefully everyone that's had to navigate through this hurricane comes out okay with it, and we're thinking of you. All righty,